Good evening and welcome to the City Council meeting of June 1st, 2026. It's called to order at 7:01 p.m. Roll call, please.
Alderman Levick.
Here.
Eskerka.
Here.
Moylan.
Here.
Sayed.
Here.
Merlin.
Here.
Walston.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Sherwitz.
Here.
Quorum's present. Please rise for the prayer and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll be offering a prayer this evening. Grant us peace of mind and calmness of spirit as we address the tasks before us. May clarity and purpose guide our actions today. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. First up this evening is public comment. If any member of the public has an item that they want to talk about that's not on today's agenda, now is your time to come on up and speak. Comments, as always, are limited to 5 minutes. Please monitor the timing device on the podium. When you step up, speak in the microphone, state your name, address, group affiliation, if any. The yellow light will indicate when you have 1 minute remaining. When you see the red light, it's time to wrap up. As always, please keep comments brief, to the point, non-repetitive, and relevant and germane to city business. So if anyone has an item that they want to talk about that's not on tonight's agenda, come on up.
Hi everyone, my name is Miles and I'm a student at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign.
I'm Albert, and I'm also a student at Washington University in St. Louis.
We are here representing Go Green Des Plaines and the Isaac Walton League, and we would like to address some of the current sustainability concerns facing Des Plaines and what we are doing to remedy them. So the first big point we're bringing up is the construction of the Iron Mountain Data Center right next to Iroquois. It'll consume roughly 500,000 to 1 million gallons of water per day, and which is a massive sustainability concern for not only the city, but these are being built all across the United States. Data centers should be required to disclose water and energy usage publicly and meet the city's sustainability benchmarks.
We also think that it's an important concern how residents' electricity bills shouldn't skyrocket because of these data centers' high usage. And also, as a result, we believe that we should push for policies that regulate their emissions and also ensure that there is water recycling and more renewable energy commitments, as well as drought contingency plans, and just overall banning the use of PFAs, which are forever chemicals. And these forever chemicals are essentially, they don't dissipate as fast, and it can seep into water systems and hurt our health.
So Des Plaines recently released a sustainability survey to gauge the community's interest in various environmental initiatives. If you haven't yet, please make sure to go complete it. You can go to teamgogreendesplaines.org or the City of Des Plaines website. The results of the survey can help sway major decisions in the future, such as the one that was just made about the data center, which I'm sure you've all heard of. The survey is a huge step towards a more sustainable Des Plaines and should continue to be pushed and improved. Additionally, on May 8th, there is a sustainability plan workshop, which everyone should attend if you have concerns regarding sustainability in Des Plaines.
June 8th, so this coming Monday. Lastly, we are in the plans of developing a new initiative called the Green Crew. So this is a volunteer organization that originally started at the Minnesota Isaac Walton League, and it is essentially a program that targets teenagers who want to make an impact environmentally and make their cities greener. We would meet every week at the Isaac Walton League to perform restorative work and remove invasives, and we just wanted to let everyone know that this is in the works and should start this summer. So if you know any teenager or younger people that would be interested, tell them to be on the lookout for any new flyers, and it'll be on the Go Green Des Plaines website or social media. So yeah, us two, we're here today because we wanted to make an impact this summer while we were home from college. And so we decided to volunteer with Go Green Des Plaines because they're doing really meaningful work, and we would just love to see more people come at our events.
We believe that everyone should have the right to clean air, water, and soil. And by encouraging residents to make small, realistically achievable lifestyle adjustments, we will empower our community to think more positively about these changes and our future. Go Green is an all-volunteer, nonprofit organization empowering people to be more aware about sustainability and more environmentally aware in order to sustain a more bright future for not only Des Plaines, but the United States and world as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your passion.
Mayor,
Alderman Wilson.
if I could, thank you, gentlemen. I'm also a member of Go Green Des Plaines, and I'm glad to see you doing work at Go Green. There's a lot to be done, and it's a good start. I do have to correct you on the water usage. Iron Mountain is in my ward. They are on a closed loop cooling system, so they are not using anywhere near the water that you stated. I'm sorry, but you gotta get it right, and I don't like people to hear something inaccurate, and that was an inaccurate statement. So, data centers, older data centers used extremely large amounts of water. The newer ones are using much less and less. They're on recycled cooling, closed-loop cooling systems, which is great, and they should be required. Jeff, do you have anything to add to this?
Yeah, so not to refute your comments, just specifically about that one statistic about water usage. Iron Mountain is a type of data center that focuses on hosting of data, not necessarily processing or AI or any of those other types of data centers that exist. Their specific design is a closed loop system with capacity for 60,000 gallons. A typical residential swimming pool would be about 15,000 gallons, so that's the equivalent. They fill it once with approximately 4 residential swimming pools worth of water, and then they utilize that water continuously to recirculate it, cool it, and then use that to cool their HVAC systems. And they don't use water for any other purposes except for flushing toilets and washing hands in sinks. So just on that particular point, that's the information that we have for that development.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you guys for being part of Go Green. It's great to see you here. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Alderman. Anyone else have an item that they want to talk about today in public comment that's not on tonight's agenda? Okay. Moving along to mayoral announcements, I have a few. First up, Des Plaines officials and community members gathered this morning at City Hall to raise the Pride flag, marking the start of Pride Month. This annual ceremony highlights the city's ongoing commitment to fostering an inclusive and welcoming environment for all residents. Des Plaines is proud to be a community that values diversity, inclusion, and respect. Raising the Pride flag serves as a visible reminder for everyone that everyone is welcome here and that we're all stronger when we embrace and celebrate our differences. On Saturday, June 20th, I'll be joining Speak Des Plaines for their annual Community Pride celebration. The event will be held at Trinity Lutheran Church over at 675 East Algonquin Road, and you can learn more at speakdesplaines.com/pride. Next up, I'm excited to invite our residents and visitors to join us for the annual Taste of Des Plaines this Father's Day weekend, June 19th and 20th, right in the heart of our downtown. This two-day festival is a great opportunity to enjoy live music, to support our outstanding local restaurants, and to spend time with family and friends in a vibrant community setting. With entertainment on 2 stages, some great food and activities for all ages, there's something for everyone. As a reminder, the event is cashless, so please plan accordingly. And finally, we look forward to seeing you as we kick off a summer here in Des Plaines. As we look forward to Independence Day, I invite our community to come together and celebrate with 2 great traditions right here in Des Plaines. Join us on Sunday, June 28th, which is the Sunday before the 4th of July, at Oakton College for a community fireworks display. It's an evening that's always filled with music, family activities, and a spectacular fireworks show that lights up the night. Then, on Saturday, July 4th, we're going to continue the celebration with our annual Independence Day Parade, which is a long-standing tradition that brings neighbors together with floats, entertainment, and community spirit. That's it for me. Moving along to Alderman announcements, we have Alderman Skirka.
Nothing tonight, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Alderman Sayed.
I too attended the celebration this morning. I thought, as the mayor said, it was a very wonderful event, raising the flag for the group of people that are real special in our city here, and I think it's very, very appropriate that we do stuff like that. And I'm encouraged with the city of Des Plaines on the different issues that we are bringing up forward and how we are handling them, and I think they're handling them in a very proper way, and I think it's very positive, and I'm very proud to be a Des Plaines resident. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Alderman. Alderman Merlin.
Yeah, a couple things. Last week, we had a memorial at Lake Opeka for the veterans in honor of Memorial Day. It was very well attended, and I wanted to thank not only all the residents showed up, but all the groups that provided wreaths. I believe they might still be there. If you get a chance, go by Lake Opeka and take a look. It was a very moving ceremony. We had some family members from somebody that's been missing since, I believe, 1970. It was, you don't realize it's well past, it's 56 years ago, but they still were there to honor their brother. The other thing is, last Saturday, keeping on that theme, I attended a 5K walk by BAPS, which is a Hindu charity. And before it started, they took all 600 runners and shaped them into a USA 250 and filmed it with a drone, handed everybody small flags and had them wave it. And the reason it stuck at me was afterwards they made an announcement, this is the flag of our country. We will not disrespect it. We do not want to see any flags on the ground. And that kind of made the point. It was a good thing to hear. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Walston.
Thank you, Mayor. Please join City of Des Plaines in the Sustainability Committee on the 8th of this month for an update on what's going on with the study. It'll be right here in this room, right, Dorothy? Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah, the other one wouldn't be quite big enough. We learned that lesson before. So please, everybody, come and see what we're doing, making progress here in Des Plaines. Also, last Tuesday, our continued series of movies at the Des Plaines Theater featured Goonies, which was attended by, I would say, around 200 people. It was, well, maybe more than that, yeah. The lights went out before I could get a head count. Anyway, tomorrow night we will have The Never-Ending Story. It'll be at 7 o'clock. And please, everybody, come to the Des Plaines Theater. Better yet, go out, take your family to dinner beforehand in a Des Plaines restaurant, and come to the movie. It's $1 a ticket. It's good value. There's popcorn, drinks are served, and everybody had a good time. There was a rousing ovation at the end of the movie. It was quite enjoyable. So I hope to see you all there tomorrow night. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Alderman. Alderman Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. I have no announcements tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Chairwitz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick reminder, tomorrow night is the next 8th Ward meeting. We have Agnes Lizak, who is the Community Outreach Liaison from the Illinois Attorney General's Office, coming to talk about senior scams and protecting identity. So that'll be our meeting tomorrow, 7 o'clock at the Conservatory over in the 8th Ward. And that's all I got, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Klibick.
None at this time, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Moylan.
Thank you, Mayor. One comment. As alderman, I often hear concerns from residents about speeding and stop sign violations. In response and in coordination with Police Chief Anderson, I am pleased to announce the launch of our spring and summer speed enforcement campaign to improve roadway safety throughout the city of Des Plaines. Each week, enforcement will focus on a specific ward with locations selected based on resident complaints and officer observations to ensure resources are directed where they are needed most. I urge all drivers to prioritize safety by slowing down and coming to complete stop at all stop signs. This is especially important with school letting out in the coming weeks, when more children will be outside in our neighborhoods. Let's work together to keep our streets safe for everyone. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Alderman. City Clerk, any announcements today?
None at this time, thank you.
City Manager's report?
Not tonight, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
General Counsel report?
Nothing from me. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Moving up on this evening to the consent agenda, does any member of the City Council or member of the audience wish to remove any item from tonight's consent agenda? It's my understanding, I think we're going to be removing item 2. Any other items? Okay. May I have a motion to establish the consent agenda? Motion from Alderman Sayed, seconded by Alderman Merlin. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. As always, all items on the city's consent agenda can be viewed on the city's website, where we post our packet in full. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion from Alderman Sayed, seconded by Alderman Walston. Roll call, please.
Alderman Moylan.
Aye.
Skirka.
Aye.
Sayed.
Aye.
Merlin.
Aye.
Walston.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Chairwitz.
Aye.
Levick.
Aye.
Mr. Clerk, would you please read the item that was removed from the consent agenda?
Yes. First reading for ordinance M-11-26, authorizing the city council dispose of the listed vehicles/equipment of the Obnoff Auction Services Incorporated, 810 Magna Drive, Round Lake, Illinois, 60073.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Staff just requests that this item be deferred to the June 15th City Council meeting.
Okay, without objection, we'll defer it. Sorry, that was my bad. Moving along to appointments and reappointments. These are for consideration only. No action is required this evening. 2 appointments or reappointments to the Fire Pension Board. Jeffrey Rozovics with a term to expire 4/30 of 28, and Don Smith with a term to expire 4/30 of 2027. And then on the Police Pension Board reappointment, there's Don Smith with a term to expire on April 9th of 2028. Moving along to new business, we have one item this evening under my committee, I guess, which is consideration of a second amendment to the city manager's employment contract, Resolution R-145-26. This is something that annually the city council goes and they talk about performance evaluation from the city manager, and they talk about potentially adjusting the rate of pay and things like that. So are there any aldermen that want to speak on this? Alderman Sayed.
I want to say that I've been an alderman for 20 years, and I believe very strongly that we have a city manager right now who has done a great deal for our city, who has worked hard to make the city go forward and address issues that have not been addressed before, and making them come forward and actually providing a better life for the city of Des Plaines. But another thing that I really observed is the way all the city departments work together under her and what they do and how she controls them. And we're very blessed to have a city manager as fortunate as that's Dorothy. I've been through some city managers, and she really is outstanding, and we're very blessed to have her. Thank you, Dorothy, for all your good work.
Thank you. Alderman Moylan.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with Alderman Sayed. You know, a lot of people don't get to see the day in, day outs of how a city operates. And then you just, you know, seeing the amount of pay that maybe, you know, various staff gets or our city manager could be, you know, the price could be up there. But, you know, from sitting on this side and with all the other aldermen, we know that our city manager is the first one here, the last one to leave, and putting in a lot of hours here. And, you know, just from the short time she's been here, you know, her salary, she's saved that amount tenfold for this city. And I could tell you that we're in the best hands with our city manager. So it's well deserved. And thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Alderman. Alderman Merlin.
You know, I was elected about a year ago, and if it wasn't for Dorothy, I would have probably made a lot of mistakes. There's a lot she does that the community doesn't see, which is guide the council along to keep things not only legal, but just to do it in the right way. She is very good at her job, and the one thing she does is she is a calming influence on everybody sitting here and the staff. Some of us can get carried away, myself included, and she's the one that'll calm us down and say, let's look at it the right way. So worth every penny. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Smith.
Yeah, I just want to give my kudos to Dorothy because Dorothy has helped me so much, and there's no one more deserving than her. So I just want to thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Chairwitz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to continue the praise of Dorothy, if I could, please. And I agree with everything that has been said already. Just simply add, I think she's a fantastic negotiator, too, which has really, as you said, saved the city not only money, but all kinds of hassles and everything else. Everybody's happy when they're done, even though they don't always get what they want. It always comes out in a very positive way. That's a skill that she has very much so. Besides, of course, understanding the financial side of this down to the penny. It's great. On a global kind of way, I just want to say how grateful I personally am, and I'm sure everybody is, that the city of Des Plaines has moved to a very stable, very prominent city manager. Wasn't that long ago, we had a Rolodex of different managers that had come through, even before my time when I was sitting here. And that stability not only brings that to our residents, but also anybody who wants to invest in the Des Plaines. I think that's also why you'll see bigger investments and some of the Costco's and larger people coming here now, because we do have a stable form of government. So that's been fantastic. And that's a kudos not only to Dorothy, but the Mike Bartholomew, who was here before, and all that stabilization that came pretty much in very recent years. And that's all I got, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alderman. I want to echo what all the aldermen said. I think that it's sometimes scary for people to see the headlines because this is a position that's paid really well, right? But at the end of the day, all of our communities up and down the train line in the Chicagoland area, we're all competing for talent. And in all my experiences in my day job working with these various city managers, I've never met a manager that works as hard or is as capable and intelligent as Dorothy is. And so I think that it's a good investment in the city's future. We're already paying dividends or seeing dividends. And I think it's definitely worthwhile. So thank you all. Alderman Walston.
I just want to say shortly that, Dorothy, you've been doing a great job and keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other alderman comments? I'll go to you in a second. Let me go to the audience. Are there any alderman or audience comments or questions? Alderman, say it.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I can make a motion to adopt our resolution R-145-26, and I so move.
Motion from Alderman Sayed, seconded by Alderman Walston, for passage of resolution R-145-26. Let's have a roll call, please.
Alderman Skirka.
Aye.
Sayed.
Aye.
Merlin.
Aye.
Walston.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Chairwitz.
Aye.
Klebeck.
Aye.
Moylan.
Aye.
Motion carries, and I'll hand it over to City Manager Wisniewski.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to thank the mayor and the city council for your confidence in and continued support of my role. It is truly a privilege to serve as city manager of Des Plaines, and I remain committed to working collaboratively with the mayor, city council, staff, and the residents to move our community forward. I appreciate the city council's recognition of the work taking place across the organization, which reflects the dedication and professionalism of our entire city staff. I look forward to continuing to serve the community with transparency, accountability, and a strong focus on delivering high-quality services to our residents and businesses. Thank you very much for your recognition. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, City Manager Wisniewski. Moving along to other items of new business, we have the Finance and Administration Committee with Chairman Sayed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. We have one item on the agenda, and that is the Warrant Register R-143-26 in the amount of $6,286,955.87. Any questions from the alderman? Any questions from the audience? Mr. Mayor, I make the motion to adopt.
Motion from Chairman Sayed for passage of resolution R-143-26, seconded by Alderman Smith. Let's have a roll call, please.
Alderman Sayed.
Aye.
Merlin.
Aye.
Walston.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Chairwitz.
Aye.
Klebeck.
Aye.
Moylan.
Aye.
Skirka.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Moving along to community development, we have a few items today with Chairman Moylan.
Thank you, Mayor. Community Development has 4 items on tonight's agenda. Without objection, I'd like to move item D up to the first for discussion.
And so moved, yep.
All right. Item D, consideration of a preliminary planned unit development, tentative plat, and conditional use for residentially zoned assembly use at 240, 280, and 310 Potter Road. At this time, I'll turn it over to Director Rogers for a review of the ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Aldermen of the City Council. The item before you is the first consideration of a draft ordinance Z1226 for the consideration of the applicant's request for preliminary plan unit development, tentative plat, and conditional use for a residentially zoned assembly use on the property at Potter Road. The subject property is comprised of 5 parcels, together totaling 3.42 acres, currently improved with a church, parish house, and a surface parking lot, as well as a detention basin. There is a proposal for a new multi-purpose building at the southwest corner of the property in the area of that detention basin. Existing property zoning is R3, which requires a conditional use for a residential assembly use. We have photos from the subject property of public notice signs posted facing Potter Road and the improvements across the site. The proposal would be comprised of a new 23,600 square foot building, including a gymnasium area, classrooms, a kitchen, office, and service areas. It would include the expansion of the existing parking lot, a new underground stormwater detention area beneath the parking lot, new landscaping along the west and east property lines. There would be no proposed changes to the curb cut serving the property. The total proposed parking after modification would be 241 spaces. If all of the square footage on the property was occupied simultaneously, a minimum quantity of off-street parking of 285 spaces would be required. In accordance with the plan unit development, a reduction in parking can be requested by up to 25% of the total. The applicant's requesting a reduction of 15.5% to reduce that requirement from 285 spaces to 241 spaces, with the principal justification that the spaces would not be utilized simultaneously. If approved, the applicant would proceed to development beginning in October of this year, and they would expect the development to continue into the late summer of next year. The applicant provided a site plan. The site plan remains unchanged from the information presented to the Planning and Zoning Board at their meeting on May 12th. This exhibit is oriented so north is to the right side of the exhibit. The top of the exhibit is west. It shows the new footprint of the building and the parking lot expansion on the left of the exhibit behind the existing parsonage and various statistics of the property. This is an exhibit created by staff using the applicant's site plan overlaid over an aerial photo showing the location of the improvement, north now being the top of the exhibit, the existing church building at the north end of the property, and then the new multi-purpose building behind the parsonage fronting on Potter Road. The applicant is providing a setback from the west property line that exceeds the city's minimum requirement and is complying with the minimum required south side yard setback. The area of new parking is shown north of the parsonage, east of the multi-purpose building, and then again, the access points from Potter Road would remain unchanged. The applicant's floor plan is included for reference, showing the first floor on the left side of the exhibit with a large open sports court area that could be used for different purposes, a kitchen and storage areas in the upper right, and then classrooms and offices on the first floor, as well as some restrooms. And then on the exhibit on your right would show the upper floor on the north side of the building, which is the right side of the exhibit. It's a second floor of classrooms and restroom facilities. On the left side of that exhibit is open space to the bottom for the sports court area and a walking track that goes around the perimeter of the sports court on the upper story. The residentially zoned assembly use would be comprised of various operations outlined in the applicant's materials and included in the packet of materials distributed to the City Council and posted on the city's website. There are 25 current programs and activities that would continue. There are 7 proposed new programs and activities, including community events, fellowship, engagement, and wedding events, and sports tournaments in the proposed multipurpose building. In reviewing the materials, the highest proposed occupancies would be Sunday mornings and on Friday evenings. The applicant provided a traffic and parking impact study demonstrating the proposed impacts and needs of the combined uses for parking and traffic generation, as well as the existing traffic conditions in Potter Road. The bulk regulations for the R3 district would all be met, including those minimum setbacks of side and rear yard for the new structure, as well as the maximum height allowance for the building, which would be 34.5 feet tall. During the public comment portion of the Planning and Zoning Board's consideration, the public mentioned a petition that was submitted. Copies of that petition were included in the packet that was distributed to the City Council and posted on the website. Additional public comments were provided during the public hearing in front of the Planning and Zoning Board. A summary of those were included in the minutes provided to the City Council, and any information that came in since the distribution of the packet for the Planning and Zoning Board. Copies of those materials were distributed to the Planning and Zoning Board at their meeting, and additional materials received since that time were provided to the City Council. At the conclusion of the public hearing, the Planning and Zoning Board took 2 separate motions. The first motion ended in a 2-2 vote to recommend the City Council approve the preliminary PUD with the PUD exception for a reduction in off-street parking and 3 staff conditions of approval as written. A 2-2 vote results in a failed motion and ultimately a recommendation for denial to the City Council. Second motion, again by a 2-2 vote, was a recommendation the City Council approve the conditional use for a residentially zoned assembly use and 3 staff conditions of approval as written in the sample motion. This too resulted in a failed motion and a recommendation for denial to the City Council. The draft ordinance includes 3 recommended conditions of approval for the PUD and conditional use requests. The applicant is available this evening to attempt to answer any questions regarding the contents of their application and their proposal, and staff is available to attempt to answer any questions about the application of city code requirements to this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. At this time, if the petitioner would like to address the council, now would be a great time. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, all the Honorable Aldermen, City Council members, and the community members gathered here. Thank you for this opportunity to speak tonight regarding our proposed multipurpose facility. My name is Manish John. I'm the Parish Secretary for the Chicago Marthoma Church and have been with the church for the last 17 years. The Chicago Marthoma Church's history is deeply rooted in this beautiful city of Des Plaines. In 1986, we opened the building doors for worship at 240 Potter Road, making Des Plaines our permanent spiritual home. For over 40 years, we have been part and parcel of this wonderful city. Today, our congregation remains a steady, vibrant community of around 350 families. Notably, 123 of our families reside directly within the city of Des Plaines and Main Township, living, working, raising their children, and contributing to the local economy. We are not just a church in Des Plaines, we are a dedicated mission partner with Des Plaines. Over the decades, we have proudly collaborated with local pillars including Des Plaines Community Foundation, Octon College, Bessie's Table, Catholic Charities, the Des Plaines Food Pantry, the Salvation Army, and our neighbors at North Main Fire Protection Department, to name a few. When we built our sanctuary in 1986, our parish consisted entirely of young families with identical needs. Today, we are a blessed multi-generational community spanning 3 and 4 generations. While our overall membership number has remained stable for the last 20 years, the diversity of our spiritual, educational, and recreational needs has changed significantly. A few examples: Sunday school bottlenecks. We currently conduct Sunday school in a makeshift basement space and within the sanctuary pews. This leaves parents with no space to gather for fellowship while their children learn. Acoustic and space constraint. While our traditional liturgical services takes place in the sanctuary, our youths gather simultaneously in the basement for contemporary worship. which results in noise from kids in the basement interfering with our service in the sanctuary. We truly need a space where these distinct worship environments can coexist without acoustic interferences. Lack of community and youth space. Our youth currently have to gather elsewhere for sports and fellowship because we lack a dedicated indoor space. Furthermore, when we gather twice a year for fellowship meals during Easter and Christmas, our basement cannot accommodate our entire congregation. The multipurpose building is born from a desire to provide a safe, wholesome indoor space for our youth, our children, families, and seniors. It is an investment in our people and community, designed with utmost respect for our neighbors. We wanted to give this council and our neighbors the assurance that this project is a low-impact, community uplifting initiative. This includes both buildings will not be simultaneously fully occupied. We hold church services only on Sundays and church holidays like Christmas. During church times, any use of the new building will be very limited. Conversely, the main use of the new building would be on days other than Sundays. As such, we will not have complete occupancy of both buildings at the same time. As a result, the new building will not create parking issues. Sufficient on-campus parking. Because our membership size is stable and our main use remains strictly tied to Sundays, occasionally on Saturdays, our existing on-campus parking is completely sufficient for 99% of our programs. For the rare 1% overflow event, such as Easter Sunday, we have a reciprocal relationship with our neighbor, North Main Fire Protection Department, who graciously coordinates parking support with us. We do not expect to use the new building to increase in any way the use of off-site parking. Exemplary setback, which was shown in the packet here. Following the Planning and Zoning Board meeting on May 12th, our leadership team immediately sought to connect with our neighbors to address their concerns and questions. Out of abundance of care and transparency, we sent a letter directly to the nearby residents outlining this exact structural assurances. We further affirm that the basketball court is for internal youth recreation, not for large external tournaments. For more than 4 decades, the Chicago Marthoma Church has been a peaceful, loving, and supportive neighbor in Des Plaines. We humbly request Honorable Mayor and City Council to support our application tonight, recognizing our pressing generational needs and our profound ongoing commitment to our neighborhood, community, and the city. We appreciate your time, your leadership, and your consideration. We also have with us our attorney, Mr. Chris Kendall, architect Mr. Robert Kirk, our chief engineer, Cliff Doberman, to further address the proposed standards. Unless you have any questions for me, I would like to turn it over to Mr. Chris Kendall, our attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Alder people. Appreciate your time and attention. The applicant addressed the standards for the PUD and the conditional use in front of the Planning and Zoning Board. Two of the big concerns were traffic and parking, and as was stated by Mr. John, there's no expected, no use, simultaneous use of both buildings, both the church and the proposed new building, at the same time to full capacity, so that the full calculated parking would never be expected to be required. That's in the draft ordinance, if you should vote in favor of it, proposed a condition that we not be allowed to use both buildings to capacity at the same time, which the applicant is okay with that limitation and condition. With regard to the traffic, Mr. Toberman, submitted the traffic study that was conducted. Again, the traffic on Sundays for the services is not expected to increase because the services, the ancillary services, if you will, during the Mass that are down in the basement would be moved to the new building. It wouldn't be additional services. And then the services in the new building by way of the Sunday school and athletics, basketball, whatever, largely during the week, and those are going to be comparatively lesser uses than the Sunday morning. So the additional traffic is minimal. It's not expected to adversely impact the surrounding area or the community. And so we feel that standards have been met. The church has been a long-term, as Mr. John pointed out, a long-term member of the community, providing services that are conducive to community building. And so we hope that you'll approve the request and they can go forward. And of course, if you have any questions, we can take them now or later. And we also have Mr. Kirk and Mr. Toberman here if you have questions for the on the traffic study and/or the architecture.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Sounds like a wonderful organization and definitely a benefit to the community. So thank you for everything you do. With that being said, I'd open it up to the council for any discussion. If you'd like to ask the applicant, Alderman Walston.
Thank you, Chairman Moylan. With declining participation in religious groups for a number of decades throughout this country, it's good to see a group like yours seem to be vibrant and moving forward, gaining more people to join your group, and I support this, and at the proper time, I would go ahead and make a motion to approve ordinance 1226.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Sayed.
I'm sitting here listening to what you're saying.
You'll have time to speak. The audience will have time to. Sir, you'll have time to come up to the podium. Alderman Sayed, continue.
Thank you, Mr.
Hold
Chairman.
on, Alderman Said, before we begin, because there was sort of a motion offered, we think that we should probably get a second on the motion and then go back to debate, if that's okay? So we have a motion from Alderman Walston, second from Alderman Skirka. Back to you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. Back to you, Alderman Sayed.
I'm sitting here listening to what you're saying about your growth. You're expanding. But then you're saying, well, you're not going to have more people. Well, why would you expand? Why would you build all this buildings here if you're not planning, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but you're planning for expansion? Because once other people see your property and what you have there, you're going to have people coming in there. Don't try to shy away from that. I think you're going to. And what really concerns me is that the buildings that you have currently are adequate for Powder Road. But what you're going to have in the future that you're going to bring into your church, Powder Road, is, I don't believe, can handle it, because you're going to have a lot more people coming in there. And don't tell me you're not going to. You are. You're not going to have a person at the door stopping them from coming in. And once they hear how good you're doing there and your new facilities, you're going to attract a lot of people. I'm concerned on the traffic there, and then the amount of noise that may occur by having more people, because you're going to have more people come into your establishment. That's why you're expanding. That's why you're growing. You have your community out there is begging for stuff like this here, and you're doing it. But I'm concerned on the plans that you have to handle the expansion. And I believe that it's something that I think that Mr. Rogers is saying, that the way everything was presented to us, to the city of Des Plaines, they have followed every rule and regulation so far to what they're saying about the amount of people that are going to be coming in here.
Yes, the proposed occupancies, provided the buildings would not be utilized at the same time, would otherwise comply with all bulk regulations and off-street parking requirements in accordance with the details of their petition.
So let me understand what you just said. So hypothetically, if we say that the occupancy is 400 people, and that's what they told you, and they are following plans that they have for the structure there, the structures are adequate for that, and our codes will comply, they are compliant to those codes, correct?
That's correct.
And what if, see, the thing, Jeff, that sort of really concerns me is Potter Road. You're going to bring in more people. You're going to have more traffic on that street there, and there's not any traffic signs there at all to handle that. But what they have right there, what they have right now, handles the current activity that is presented on Potter Road, and I just hope that we address that if it increases, then, and for them to handle, and I'm sure they will, if you do, increase it there, we will have to bring them back here and they have to make some modifications. Is that how it works?
Ultimately, any occupancies would be limited to 500 people in accordance with the application currently presented as a maximum occupancy. The applicant's traffic engineer is in attendance if there are specific questions. The Potter Road right-of-way is improved with a northbound and southbound lanes with a center bidirectional turn lane that would accommodate a lengthy line of cars turning into the property. But ultimately, specific questions about traffic circulation, the proposed operation plan would be better directed to the applicant.
What I did, Jeff, was I was going northbound on Potter Road, turning in. You have one or two cars stopping there to try to turn in your block. You had the whole lane behind them is stopped because there's no traffic control there at all. And let me ask you another question. Right now, their occupancy is, they have a permit for now of occupancy. What is that currently?
So currently, their largest event is up to 500 people, inclusive of the basement and church first floor.
And and the new one will still be 500?
That's the maximum. So it's my understanding, based on the contents of the applicant's materials, that those are anticipated maximum occupancies on 2 events per year, one being the Easter holiday, the second being the Christmas holiday.
Now listen to what we just said. Listen to what we just said. Current occupancy is 500 for what we have right now, for the size of the property and everything we have. Now they're expanding, and I'm sure they're going to create different programs. You don't think that 500 is going to be topped? I'll put money on it, because it's going to attract a lot of people into your church, and they're going to see what's going on. I'm so uncomfortable with your theory about that, leaving it at 500, but what you're doing is saying, hey, go out and build a brand new building and put all that stuff out there, but you only can still have 500 people come in. Then why are you spending all this money for? Why are you expanding so greatly? Because you're expanding, in my opinion, greatly because there's a need out there for you. And you want to serve your people. And I think that's great. But I think we want to do it in a way that is very easy for everybody, for you and for the city, because you're going to have, by the emails that I received, and we all did from the residents there, it's going to be, they all think it's going to be a problem. But Mr. Rogers said that you addressed it, so that's good enough for me. If you say that, Mr. Rogers, that they are going to handle the traffic situation there, and if you say that and you don't go over 500, then we're all cooking with the same gas. But I feel very strongly, gentlemen, that we're going to have a lot of people coming in there. You're going to have more than 500. It's going to happen, and we're going to start seeing it when the neighbors starting to complain, calling 911, saying you got traffic jams over there on Potter Road. I want you to be a success. You, as much as you want to be. I want you to grow. And I think you want to grow too. You wouldn't be spending this kind of money into this here project. But when you grow, my friends, you bring in more people. That's why you're growing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Alderman. Any additional comments from the council? This will be the time for any audience comments. Gentlemen, if you want to take a seat.
Okay.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record, and please be conscious of the time device.
I'm only going to take about a minute and a half of your
Yeah,
time.
no worries.
Don't
Thank you.
worry. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. My name is David Hitch, and I live at 251 Good Avenue, directly behind the Chicago Martoma Church. My wife and Nancy and I have lived there for more than 30 years. Like many of the homeowners who will be speaking this evening, we have raised our children in this neighborhood, we have shared cookouts, celebrated milestones together, enjoyed pizza from the local restaurant, Countryside's our favorite, but most importantly, we have been good neighbors to one another, quite literally on Good Avenue and Good Court. We're not developers, architects, engineers, or attorneys. We're homeowners and neighbors. Tonight, 7 of the homeowners would like to share their concerns regarding the Chicago Martoma's proposed multi-purpose facility. Nancy C., there'll be 2 Nancy speaking tonight, will discuss the scale and size of the project. Tina will address concerns about the event facility and potential future expansions. Kevin will speak about the parking deficiencies and traffic congestion. John will discuss flooding, environmental impacts, conditions and enforcement, safety concerns, noise, and quality of life issues. Diane will review with you a previously proposed by the church for a much more modest classroom building. Nancy H., my wife, will then summarize our collective concerns. Finally, Alan will offer our closing thoughts regarding the proposed multipurpose facility. We recognize that the Chicago Martoma Church is seeking a solution to meet its needs. We respect that challenge and understand the desire to plan for the future. However, after carefully reviewing the proposal before the City Council, we believe this particular project is not the right solution for this location or the surrounding neighborhood. We respectfully ask that you listen carefully to the concerns of the residents who live closest to this development and consider whether this proposal is compatible with the character, infrastructure, and quality of life in our community. Thank you for your time and consideration. I would like to now ask Nancy C. to come to the podium to share her thoughts about the scale and size of the project.
Thank you.
I told you I wouldn't take much time.
You were right.
He's going to serve as my Vanna White, if that's okay. Hi, Nancy Creeley, 283 Good Court. Good evening, Mayor and council members. We received Marthoma's proposal 4 days prior to the zoning meeting and were absolutely shocked at the scale and the placement of the multipurpose building. A 23,000 square foot, 2-story tall building is comparable to the square footage of 10 homes. The building includes an 8,000 square foot gym, gathering spaces, classrooms, kitchen, restroom facilities. It is designed to accommodate events up to 500 people and could host a wide variety of activities, including large gatherings, community events, and sports leagues. This is not a small neighborhood facility. It is a commercial scale event venue in close proximity to the existing homes. The potential impacts for traffic, parking, noise, lighting, and the frequency of events raise serious concerns for nearby residents. In 2016, when the parsonage and parking lot were approved and built, the plans also included a 5,000 square foot multi-purpose building adjacent to the parsonage on Potter Road. If that same proposal were being considered today, the neighbors would have no objection to that building. Our concerns are not with the previously proposed 5,000 square foot building, but with the current proposal and its impacts. And the pictures didn't adequately show where our neighborhood is in comparison to what they want to do. Their site plan shows trees all in the back, but actually there's a fence, and our property is right over that fence. Our houses are 25 feet from that fence, and this building will back up. It'll be 25 feet from their side and 25 feet from our side. That is really close. That is a picture of the building. This shows our cul-de-sac. Yes. This shows our cul-de-sac. And the building will be right in the square. As soon as you drive in our cul-de-sac, all you'll see is a huge 2-story building at the end of it.
Moving on.
Yeah.
Stay by the microphone.
This building that they're proposing is 112 feet wide, 34 feet high, 128 feet deep, and again, it's 25 feet from fence. A typical home is 20 feet high, so this is going to be a lot higher. Next one. This shows a picture from the church parking lot to where the houses are. They're right there. I think that's it.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Thank you. We respect the right of Mar Thoma Church to serve its congregation. Our concern is not with the religious use itself, but with the scale and location of the proposed 32,000 square foot facility and its impact on surrounding residential neighborhood. Specifically, we are concerned about increased noise, light trespass, loss of privacy because the 2-story building with all the windows will be viewing right into our homes, traffic, parking, and the conversion of currently permeable land associated with the existing stormwater retention area into an impervious surface causing stormwater runoff towards our properties. I ask the council to consider whether this land use is something that you would find acceptable in your own neighborhood and to weigh the impacts on the residents who live there. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Tina Zook, and I live at 291 Good Court. I live right across the street from Nancy. And I have been a resident of the Des Plaines area for 20 years. And so I am directly behind the fence that the Mar Thoma proposed building sits in front of. As you heard Nancy review the issue and concern with the scale of the proposed multipurpose building, 23,000 square feet and about 55 feet away from our home, I wanted to highlight and provide a comparison to an already existing event facility that is located a few miles away in Niles, Illinois. The Chateau Ritz Banquet in Niles is 10,000 square feet with approximately 700 to 800 person capacity and 400 parking spaces. This Mar Thoma proposed multipurpose building is 23,000 square feet. So I agree with your assessment earlier that I can't imagine that if you're building this enormous multipurpose facility, that you're not going to have more people come and have different types of events, sporting events, and different things that we'll talk about in a few minutes. The Chateau Ritz is a commercial event venue. The Mar Thoma proposed building is going to be located in a residential neighborhood. The Chateau Ritz was designed to support large gatherings. The Chateau Ritz has a very large dedicated parking lot. The Mar Thoma multipurpose will rely on residential streets that have limited parking overflow options. As a resident, I know myself and my good neighbors feel the same. We are very concerned about the expansion of the proposed building and the different event schedules. We are concerned about event intensity, banquets, concerts, weddings, large social gatherings, and activities that will occur, that normally occur in a commercial type venue and not in a residential area. We are asking that the parking, traffic, and compatibility concerns be given the same weight they would receive in any other zoning case, as we are already plagued by traffic and parking concerns currently. For the proposed building, this significantly proposes and raises concerns about traffic congestion, vehicular and safety for pedestrians. These concerns are not speculative. These concerns are based on my experience and my neighbors. For years, and it's because we live through this every day. If you pass by our street in the afternoon on a weekend, especially Fridays, where you're proposing that most of these events would happen, you can't even get to your home. I have to create zigzags around how I'm going to get to my home in the cul-de-sac because it takes me 30 minutes to get home from golf. And so I believe these issues will be exacerbated if this project is approved. Our concern is never about religion. I attend a different church that is not in a residential area, that's in a very commercial type of industrial area, and we have a building like this. And I can tell you, it was for expansion, and there are many people that come when we do sporting events or baptisms, and so it is just unrealistic to have the idea that you're going to continue to have the same amount of people coming through. So our concern has never been about religion. Our concern is whether the city is applying the same practical standards that would be applied to any project of this size and intensity. The question before the council today is whether this project is appropriate for this location, not whether the applicant might challenge with a denial or we'll have issues. We, the good neighbors, are the people that are mostly affected. We have not, and we've had the least opportunity to review and respond. I received a letter 4 days before the zoning. The petitioner has had months and maybe years to prepare this case, but yet I only had a few days to prepare for it and to understand it. And so I do not believe that's fair, and so I hope that you consider all of our feelings.
Trust you.
Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. My walk is a little slower than the other people that came up. Hi, my name is Kevin Creeley. I live with my wife Nancy at 283 Good Court. It's a cul-de-sac that is just west of the building site. As they mentioned, we would be seeing this building from our living room. We have lived there for 28 years. We love it. We love the people. We love the environment. We love the nature of Des Plaines. I'd like to discuss parking and traffic impacts on our neighborhood because of this project. This commercial building will have 241 parking places, yet per the plans, they're required to have 285. They're coming up 44 short. And when you look at our neighborhood, the surrounding residential streets do not contain enough legal parking to accommodate these 44 off-site parking spots. You know, in my opinion, our opinion, the commercial building is too large for its parking footprint, and specifically where it is, as you saw on the overhead maps. And it should be reduced in size and scope, and we're hoping that it gets moved to Potter. Again, we're not objecting to the building, we're objecting to the size and the location. Examples of neighborhood parking congestion. This first picture is Potter Road looking north. I'll take door number 1. And the second picture is Good Avenue looking north. Third picture is Church Street, and this is looking west. And the last picture, Church Street looking east. One common theme, a lot of residential auto parking. where are you going to put all these 500 people? Next, I'd like to look at traffic impact on a neighborhood. You know, we're talking about events up to 500 attendees. That's a pretty heavy load on a local neighborhood. Oh, sorry. Or I could bend over, I guess. So we think this would create a large event arrival and departure surges are expected because of the large number of attendees. You mentioned Potter Road, it would get buried. 500 people? This building would significantly increase the auto and foot traffic in our neighborhood. The increase to morning and afternoon commuter and school traffic would negatively impact Potter. Existing traffic conditions are already problematic. I believe the building is too large for the size of it. It should have a reduced size and scope and move closer to Potter. Thank you for listening to me, and next up is John.
Thank you. Good evening, welcome.
My name is John Grossman. I want to thank you, Mayor and members of the council, for hearing us today. This is my wife, Judy, and my able assistant, and we live at 387 Good Avenue. We've been living there for almost 28 years, right? 29. Again, we have a diverse neighborhood. We are all very close. It's a great neighborhood to be in. Where we live, it's a single lane. We've had people like Uber drivers pick us up and go, wow, I didn't know this thing even existed, because we have a pond on one side and we have residents. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to discuss very quickly the additional impacts that we are going to have in terms of storm and sewer, in terms of enforcement, in terms of noise and safety. Starting with storm, I know that they propose an underground detention system. I've installed 2 of those on 2 projects I've done. It's a nice solution. The problem is that because of the additional impervious surface, and that the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District requires you keep your water on your site, it's going to create more water. And the way the system works is the water that it gets accumulated in the detention vault is it has an outflow that's called a restrictor. And the restrictor does exactly that. It restricts the flow. And so it causes the water to back up. And MWRD is perfectly happy with letting the parking lot flood, because that's part of what the plan is. And you want to show the case of, now this is just it flooding day after. So what's going to happen is that if depending on how much rain we get and what the rate is, that if it floods the parking lot, it will start to shed off into the neighbors, all the people along the back west side of that, and then onto Potter. If it goes on to Potter, then that becomes an issue with IDOT, because that's IDOT street, and I've dealt with IDOT in terms of trying to handle stormwater onto one of their streets. So what we're concerned about is that this could have an impact, and the thing that I would suggest is if you approve this, I think we would like to know, what is the standard? Are you going to do the 25-year flood, the 50-year flood, or the 100-year flood? Because that makes a big difference. That will determine what the civil engineer has to do to calculate the size of the detention. My second thing is sewage. We know that if you've got 500 people, you're going to have a lot of sewage. And that's going to create an impact. The way MWRD has it designed, downstream, sewage is combined with storm. They flow together. And I know that because I built projects on the east side plant for the Metropolitan District, which handles all the water here. And it could cause a further problem of backup in terms of the system. All right. The second thing I wanted to talk about is enforcement. Again, you know, we have no issue with the community of the church, and we respect their goals because it's important. We're only responding as residents that this expansion could impact us in terms of our quality of life. So we are concerned that based on the city ordinances, if in fact we have had issues where when they have events, it can get loud, and there's been very little enforcement in terms of making sure they comply to the noise ordinance. And it's very clearly spelled out. I went on your site, and it's clear. I think that the upper level is 65 decibels. It can be easily measured. So if the police come out, I know that if I'm having a party and I'm getting loud and the police come out, they're going to tell me, turn it down. And if I don't listen, they're going to tell me, you got to leave. Your party's over. So what we're asking is, we're just asking that there be equal-handed enforcement of existing ordinances. If in fact this is approved, what we want is, we would like to know that in terms of, now I'm going to move on to the noise issue, that if the building is built, we'd like to know that at least it has what's called an SET 46 sound rating, which is typically what you would do with walls for apartment buildings, hotels, and condominiums. I did one where we actually, when we were done, the owner brought in a company to test, to make sure that we complied with the ST 46, which is a sound transmission coefficient. We would like to, I've talked over. Am I okay to go just a little bit more?
Can you wrap it up, please?
Okay.
Yep, thank you.
All right. So anyway, what we'd like to do is to make sure that there is some agreement and some process in terms of enforcement. That if we call and ask for help, we're not going to be, well, you know, they're having whatever, and it's ignored. You know, and so if, you know, whatever the terms of the agreements are, we would like to know that the city is committed to enforcing it. Further, it would be nice to know that if there were some issues that come up, that you're committed to allow us to have another hearing to discuss what we want to do in terms of whatever adjustments need to be made.
Thank you.
Okay, Diane?
Any additional comments? Yep. Well, thank you. Good evening. Welcome.
My name is Diane Nelson, and I've lived at 285 Good Court for 43 years, so far I win. Oh, thank you. I'd like to talk briefly about the impact this proposal will have on the surrounding homes, because I have years of experience with that. Many people are familiar with the term external obsolescence. It's a recognized real estate concept that describes a loss in property value caused by factors outside a homeowner's control. Things like changes in surrounding land use, increased traffic, noise, or other neighborhood impacts. The concern is not just property values. It's the overall livability and character of the neighborhood. This is what we're concerned about. Martoma has stated this proposal is an expansion of a previously approved Sunday school building concept from 2016. This is in their proposal that they submitted, along with a comparative drawing. However, the building being proposed today is dramatically different from what the residents understood at that time. And what I'm referring to, I'm sorry, it's not very distinctive, but sorry. You can tell I don't do this. This is the outline of the original proposal that and this was in their submittal for this. And then behind is the current building. As you can see, this, the original proposal was at Potter Road. It was a classroom Sunday school, I believe. And frankly, most of us went, yeah, you know, that would be nice. They need that. And it's on Potter Road, and it really wouldn't interfere. But what they're proposing now is dramatically different from what we understood. The 2016 concept was 5,000 square feet located near Potter Road, adjacent to the parsonage. The proposal before you is 23,622 square foot, two-story multi-purpose facility, more than 4 times larger, with a gymnasium, kitchen, meeting rooms, and large gathering spaces. Speaking as one of the closest homeowners, I don't think the issue is classrooms. If this had remained as a modest classroom building similar to what was discussed in 2016, a few of us would be here tonight talking about conditions and neighborhood protections, not expressing deep concerns about the project itself. What residents are reacting to is the dramatic increase in size, intensity, and location. Instead of being situated near Potter Road, this massive building is pushed deep into the residential area, immediately adjacent to the homes on Good Court. As you heard earlier, they're 25 foot from the fence, and our homes are 25 foot on the other side. That's 50 feet. So there's this large 2-story building 50 feet from our homes. What is currently a quiet residential cul-de-sac would be visually dominated by a 23,000 square foot institutional type building. The issue is simply not height, it's scale, mass, and proximity of the structure to nearby homes. That's why 53 homeowners signed a petition opposing this proposal. It's just not 8 people that, you know, don't want their yard messed up. We're not speculating about impacts, we're already living with them. Residents have firsthand experience with traffic congestion, parking spillover, noise, and safety concerns associated with large gatherings in this area. This isn't a theoretical prediction. These are existing conditions that many of us fear will become significantly worse if this proposal is approved. I respectfully ask the council to consider whether this level of development is truly compatible with the surrounding residential neighborhood and whether it is fair to ask nearby homeowners to bear these impacts for years to come. Thank you for your time and consideration. Our good neighbor Nancy will speak now.
Thank you. Good evening, welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for your time this evening. My name is Nancy Hitch, and I have lived at 251 Good Avenue with my husband David for the last 30 years. My neighbors tonight have spoken much to the facts of the issues we have concerns with as they relate to the proposed commercial-like building. They have impressed upon you the impacts this proposal will have on our neighborhood. We are a diverse neighborhood that proudly reflects many cultures, ethnicities, religions, and places of worship. There are many in our neighborhood. How appropriate that Church Street runs right through it. That diversity makes Des Plaines a vibrant, welcoming community, and we support the right of all faith communities to worship and gather. Our concerns are not about religion or ethnicity. It is the scale, intensity, and location of this oversized proposal in the middle of a residential neighborhood. A 34-foot high, 112-foot by 128-foot multi-purpose and event building located approximately 25 to 55 feet from homes is incompatible with surrounding residential properties. We believe a smaller, classroom-focused building could meet church needs while respecting nearby residents. We understand that there may be legitimate municipal concerns surrounding the use of RLUIPA, the Religious Land Use Act, but religious freedom does not eliminate zoning standards. This federal law, RLUIPA, protects religious institutions from unfair discrimination. However, cities may legally deny proposals that create substantial public impacts when supported by compelling governmental interests. This is very true in this case. Those substantial public interests may include public safety, traffic congestion, parking deficiencies, emergency vehicle access, noise impacts, and neighborhood compatibility. The proposal before you includes all of these public impacts. Ordinary zoning concerns should not be overshadowed by concerns about what might happen if the city says no. We worry that the focus has shifted from whether this proposal is appropriate for the neighborhood to whether denying it could create legal complications. It is not okay to accommodate a religious institution with preference and favorable treatment while violating neighbors' rights. The question before the council should be whether this project is appropriate for this location, not whether the applicant might challenge a denial. The neighbors may not have had the same reactions if we had been part of the process. Our home is directly behind the church. We were never contacted by the church until receiving a letter just this past Friday about the proposed building. We in the immediate surrounding area, who will be most impacted by such a facility, were not invited by the church to have the opportunity to review it and respond to it. There was no chance for meaningful dialogue or ability to provide input on something that will change the character of our neighborhood so profoundly. You are seeing and hearing from only some of the concerned residents tonight. I have here our submitted petition signed by over 50 local neighbors who oppose this proposal. We are asking the City Council to protect residential neighborhoods while still respecting religious freedom. Please consider the precedent that would be set in the approval of this proposal. It's easy to say NIMBY, not in my backyard, but a future similar proposal may be in your neighborhood or the ward you represent. I once again emphasize that our concern is not religion. Our concern is whether the city is applying the same practical standards that would be applied to any project of this size and intensity. Understand that we would have the same arguments and facts presented tonight against this proposal if it were a non-religious entity requesting it. It is the size, scope, and placement of the building that is at issue. We simply hope this proposal is judged on its merits. If the parking, traffic, safety, and neighborhood impacts are real, they should matter, regardless of who the applicant is. The same standards should apply to every proposal brought before the city. We are simply asking that residential neighborhoods remain residential neighborhoods. Residents should not have to sacrifice the peaceful enjoyment of their homes because this site lacks the capacity for major expansion. Thank you very much. Alan will now present a wrap-up summary and closing.
Thank you. Good evening, welcome.
Good evening, Alan Nelson. I'm at 285 Good Court, directly behind the church. We've lived here, my wife and I have lived here, and our son have lived here for over 40 years, 42, 43 years, I think, well before the church moved in. So I guess we're the oldest residents in the area there. And I want to emphasize, like has been emphasized before, that this case is not about opposition to religion, nor is it about opposition to the church. That's been a long member of this community for, again, 40 years. The church and the parsonage have coexisted in this neighborhood and are established components in the neighborhood. We recognize that. The question before you is whether the proposed zoning is appropriate for this location and whether the proposed use is compatible with the surrounding residential area. My late brother was a botanist and a horticulturalist. He worked for the Botanic Gardens, and he also worked with the Lincoln Park and the Garfield Park Conservatories, the greenhouses. He was at our house, and we were looking out our lawn, and there were some weeds there, and I said to my brother Scott, talented horticulturalist and botanist, what do I do about these? And my brother turned to me and he said, Alan, a weed is just a misplaced flower. The point of the saying is that some things can be worthwhile and attractive and beneficial, yet still be inappropriate for a particular location. The issue is not whether the community center has value. The issue is whether the particular property surrounded
by residential uses is the proper place for a facility designed primarily for individuals who do live elsewhere. The applicant characterizes the proposal as a community center. However, the record indicates that the facility is intended primarily for the church members, which is understandable. This is not the proper place for this facility. This distinction is really significant. Whether the property is being used for the community of Des Plaines or the church residents, the church is serving a local congregation is one thing. A facility that regularly attracts substantial numbers of non-residents for meetings, programs, events, and activities is entirely different. While both may be affiliated with the same institution, the impacts in the surrounding neighborhood are not the same. Every rezoning request must be evaluated not only by the identity of the applicant, but also by the practical consequences of the effect on the neighborhood, such as parking, noise, activity levels, lighting, and the cumulative effect of intensifying the use of the property beyond what the neighboring residents reasonably expect when they chose to live here. The city's zoning regulations exist to protect neighborhoods from precisely this type of incremental intensification. A use should not be appropriate merely because it's related to an existing use. The proper inquiry is whether the proposed expansion remains compatible with the surrounding area. Here, the benefits of the proposed center appear to flow primarily to persons who do not live in the neighborhood, or in many cases, do not live in the city, even though some of them do have Des Plaines postal addresses. The burden, however, will be borne by the neighbors and the residents every day. I've also heard that they're only going to use they're only going to use one building or the other building. Again, who's going to enforce that? Me? Am I going to call the police and say, hey, they're using both buildings? Let me return to that earlier analogy. A flower may be beautiful, but if planted in the wrong place, it can overtake the garden around it. Likewise, even a well-intentioned project can become incompatible when its scale, intensity, and service exceed the surrounding neighborhood and can exceed what the surrounding neighborhood can reasonably accommodate. The council's responsibility, I think, is not to determine whether the proposed center is a good idea in the abstract. I believe your responsibility is to determine whether it is appropriate for this location. For the reasons discussed, I respectfully submit that the proposed rezoning is inconsistent with the character of the neighborhood and provides limited benefits to the surrounding community and would impose impacts on nearby residents that outweigh the claimed benefit. Accordingly, I urge the council to deny the rezoning request. Thank you for this consideration.
Thank you. Good evening, welcome. Please state your name and be conscious of the time. Thank you.
Sure. Good evening. My name is Annie Abraham. I'm a member of the Chicago Marthoma Church, and I'm here representing the Chicago Marthoma Church to support our proposed multipurpose building project. Having been an active part of this community for over 40 years, we take our responsibility to our neighbors very seriously. We believe that with a clear understanding of our operational logistics, the board will see that this project enhances the community without creating the adverse impacts. Traffic management. Our 40-year history in this location demonstrates meticulous and successful approach to traffic flow. Unlike other large organizations in the city, we have no recorded incidents of causing congestion on Potter Road. Our operations are specifically designed to stagger attendance. Service 1 starts at 7 a.m., attended by approximately 10% of our families. Sunday school attended by approximately 45% of our families. Adult Bible study, this session begins only after the first service attendees have departed, ensuring that vehicles are not competing for space. Service 2 attendance is similarly staggered, and members typically depart at varying times rather than single mass exodus. Safety and facility improvements. The safety of our members, ranging from 5-year-olds to seniors, is our highest priority. We are extremely protective of those traversing our parking lot and would never implement a plan that puts our own community at risk. The primary driver for this new facility is the education of our children. Our current Sunday school space is located in a basement with removable partitions, which creates an environment where students are struggling to hear their teachers. This modern facility would provide dedicated classrooms to replace the current inadequate basement space. A significant upgraded learning environment of our youth. Clarification on building intensity and usage. The intensity and usage of a new building will not exacerbate traffic. The new building is not intended for concurrent use with the main sanctuary during the peak times, except for Sunday school. There is no new traffic. Sunday school attendance does not introduce new vehicles to Potter Road. As the children don't own cars or drive themselves, they arrive with parents attending services. 90% of the activities in the new building will be existing programs relocated for better efficiency. New weekday programs are designed for small groups, approximately 20 people, which is well within the neighborhood's capacity to absorb the traffic. So in conclusion, I just want to say this project is an investment in the safety and education of our children, designed by a long-standing neighbor who understands the local traffic patterns intimately. We remain committed to being low-intensity, stable presence in Des Plaines community. I thank you for listening, and thank you, and hoping for a yes vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional comments from the audience? Oh, welcome. Good evening. Please state your name.
Hi. My name is Pam Warford. I live at 2530 Church Street in Des Plaines. And I'm not an accomplished speaker like everybody else is, so you'll have to be patient with me. But I have a different view of, some of it is the same as theirs, but also some of it is not, because I have already been experiencing some things because of the proximity I am to the mosque. And so as far as the building, I too think it's a larger than it needs to be, but that may not be my right to say. However, I do disagree with very vehemently with where it's proposed to be built. And I'm just giving my opinion here because I don't have any kind of background in building and everything, but it would seem to me that it would be a lot better if it was moved all the way up towards Potter. It would help to eliminate the concerns of the neighbors that have already spoken, and it should be able to do the same thing it's going to do if it's back to where all the neighbors are living. But there's a couple of things that I have experienced because of the mosque, and one of them is lighting. Now, I don't know what the lighting is proposed for this building, but I live, I'm not good with dimensions, but I live, I don't know, maybe a good 200 feet or more from the mosque. And at one time, a few years ago, for some reason, they decided to put these lights on the outside of their building, but all the way at the top. There were 4 of them. I have no idea what kind of lights they were, but boy, did they light up my house, because they're just very powerful. The city was, I'm not sure the department's title exactly, but they worked very well and helped me out, and the lights had to be taken down because you have a rule here about how far your lights can go past your property line, and they were well past that and at a high velocity. So that was very nice for a couple of years, and then all of a sudden it came back, but not 4 of them, just 1 of them. And it was the one that was farthest away from my house. But I still had the same problem. It came into my house, but not at the same amount of light that I had. So for the neighbors of mine that are going to be, if it was built in that spot, they very well will end up having lighting problems, because there's that 50 feet is not going to, you can't have anything on the back of that building because it's going to shine in their houses, and I can vouch for that. And also kind of going in a different direction, but also that we have a noise ordinance in the city. And you also, you know, I don't know that 50 feet is going to be able to, and having the location of it all the way back by the houses is going to be able to be controlled so that the neighbors that live there are not being excessively subjected to noise. Those are two things I think are high considerations, because once you have it there, you're not going to be able to take it away. You can control the lighting, I'm sure, a lot easier than the noise. But if you relocate the building, you could also relocate where the noise would be. And I was talking about the maximum occupancy of the attendees. I have no idea how many attendees the mosque has on their Friday services. However, I know they all park. There's so many attendees, they don't all park in the parking lot. So they fill up the street on Church, and then they fill up the street on Good, not going to the north, but to the south, because Good is a one-way street and there's no parking on there now, which again the city helped with to get that done because they were parking there too. But then you have the problem, when they first started parking on Church Street, they parked on both sides. So then you had a problem with getting an emergency vehicle there. Well, that also has been helped. Some of the neighbors have gotten together and the city helped with that, so they can only park on one side, because otherwise a vehicle, emergency vehicle can't get through. But still, if there's traffic flow, I witnessed it myself where a fire engine was coming down the street.
Ma'am, we reached the time limit. Please consider
I'm
wrapping
sorry.
up your statements. That's okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, anyway, where the emergency vehicle had to be very cautious about how they got down the street. So I'm only bringing this up because this is a totally different outlook, because I live near there, they're my neighbors, but I'm seeing the attendance to a church or a religious from a different perspective. So I really feel that this building should not for sure be built in the most western corner side there. And I'm sorry if I didn't know how.
That's quite all right. Thank you. Any additional comments? Good evening and welcome. Please just be conscious of the timer below on the kiosk, on the dais.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for letting me speak on behalf of Martoma Church. My name is Tony Schneer, and I live in the vicinity of Potter and Emerson, so I'm within 2 blocks of the church. We've been a resident, my husband and I, for 52 years in this neighborhood, so we were here well before the church was. I recall the property, part of it that they had was pretty derelict and run down and had a pretty bad shaped house on the property and overgrown landscaping and that, and they've really done a nice job in maintaining the property. They've been good neighbors. They've sent parishioners out throughout my neighborhood and invited us to church events, so they're very open to everyone to come and be with them. I can understand the reason that they want to expand. I myself am a devout Lutheran most of my life, and my husband and I are very involved in our church, and we know that it takes space to run Sunday school. It takes space to have fellowship gatherings. I think it's wonderful that they're so multi-generational in their church that they're going to have something for their seniors. I didn't know too much about the facility, the size of it, or the scope. Should have done my homework better, I guess. But I took the opportunity to drive around the church property and see where the building would be. I can understand some pushback on that. I talked to the church leaders to get a little more information, and they were very helpful in that regards. As far as traffic and that, 90% of what my husband and I drive on is Potter Road. And at all times, business hours, weekends, evenings, as we come and go. And it's never had any impact on us as far as that goes. I just hope that the council can help to work with the community and the church to find an option that would work for everyone. But please bear in mind, the church does need the space. They need room to comfortably function. And I don't see them to be an annoyance, but more of a good presence in the neighborhood, promoting youth and families. And I think in the long run, that will greatly benefit our community. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Welcome. Good evening.
Respected Mayor, Honorable Aldermen, city officials, neighbors, and friends, I am Reverend Ashish Thomas, pastor of the Chicago Marthoma Church and a campus resident. As a congregation that has faithfully served this community for over 50 years, we understand and respect the concerns raised by some of our neighbors. However, the facts demonstrate that many of these fears are unwarranted. One regarding traffic and parking. The proposed building is not intended, as stated earlier, to increase attendance or expand existing worship activities. In fact, our parking lot, I stay there, has never been filled to capacity for more than a year, with the exception of Easter Sunday. The existing infrastructure has been more than adequate for our current congregation. There has been no significant growth, as many have stated. The Marthoma Church is a liturgical church with a 2,000-year-old Christian heritage. Our worship follows established tradition and is conducted primarily in our local language, Malayalam. This is not a model that typically attracts large numbers of attendees from outside the community. Historical evidence also matter. We have not experienced substantial growth in the last 40 years. On the contrary, 2 congregations have separated from our parish during that period, reducing rather than increasing our numbers. We grow by division, not expansion. Our Marthoma Church has approximately 100 congregations across the United States. Our tradition is to establish new parishes when communities grow, rather than continuously expanding in a single location. The building supports existing members. One of the greatest challenges today, as some honorable aldermen already stated, is retaining younger generations, many of whom are leaving for newer churches and facilities. This project is an effort to provide space for youth, children, and seniors so that they may remain connected to their faith, family, community, and tradition. Moving activities indoors is another highlight of this expansion, this project. A small number of activities that currently take place outdoors will be relocated indoors once this facility comes up. This change is likely to reduce noise and improve the overall experience for both members of the church and the neighborhood community. We are a church with a proven record of civic responsibility. For 4 decades, we have been good neighbors. We have consistently demonstrated civic responsibility, respected local regulations, and maintained positive relationships within the community. Our record speaks for itself. A community resource. This project is also aimed to be a community resource. The proposed facility is not intended solely for church use. We are willing to make the space available for the Des Plaines city community and activities that benefit the broader neighborhood. So we commit to compliance. We are fully committed to following all the city requirements, recommendations, and guidelines regarding traffic, parking, safety, and building operations. This project is not about growth in numbers. It is about better serving the congregation we already have, caring for our children, youth, and seniors, and continuing our long tradition of being a responsible and contributing members to the Des Plaines community. We respectfully submit that concerns about increased traffic, parking, congestion, or major expansion are not supported by history, our current attendance patterns, or the purpose of the project. I would like to conclude by stating that our church motto is lighted to lighten. We are called to lighten our neighborhood, the community that we are part of. We would never bring a proposal that would cause trouble to our neighbors. So I humbly request you all to kindly consider this proposal favorably. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, welcome.
Good afternoon. I was not scheduled to talk today, but I was invited to come. My name is Francisco Perez. We've been living there more than 20 years, probably 30 years, on 35 East Emerson Street. Our children grew up there. They came to the Boy Scout group here in Group 22 in Des Plaines, so we know the region. We are very faithful, and we respect and encourage this kind of community getting together with religion. However, the comments about traffic and my background, by the way, is a risk engineer. I just was retired 2 months ago from Ryan Specialty in downtown. So we do risk analysis and we do exposure analysis for insurance companies. So one of the beginning things that you do when you do a risk analysis is understand the region. And as we live in the region, we understand the problems we have, right? And one of the problems, based on what I heard today, is that there are no traffic problems, and that's not true, in my experience. In the 2 months I've been retired, I've been in the backyard fixing things in the house to keep busy and so on, and go to Home Depot. And I just get out of Emerson Street, try to turn right to Potter. It's impossible, right? Several times. Coming back, to come back home, we have the mosque. We see all these cars parking there, as it's been mentioned. I've been trying to find different routes to get home and see what is the best option to do that. Particular Potter and Emerson, there is not a stop sign, there is not a light, a stop light. There are problems there. It's very open. We have to wait there just to go into Potter, to the left, to Golf. We have to wait for a few minutes. Sometimes people going with me, they want to push, go fast. No, I would rather be patient to avoid accidents, even if we have the central line in Potter, to the central lane in Potter. So whatever has been said about traffic, that has to be reviewed, please. Right now, there is a problem. The other concern I have is for the neighbors and our friends that live in Good Street, right? A lot of people in the neighborhood, and you see kids, you see elder people walking in Good Street. Whenever I drive there, I go very slowly because I know there are kids, I know there are elder people, and they have to move aside so the car can go through, right? If this is not carefully done, then there is going to be even a lot of more traffic in Good Street. And all these people, that's a wonderful street. We are blessed to have that street there. And I thank all the neighbors who live there because we walk there, right? So I would say that the traffic part certainly needs to be reviewed because that right now is a problem. And the other statements, I'm not sure, but I appreciate you listening to my words. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Sure.
If we could, we'd like to have the traffic engineer speak and address some of the concerns about the traffic and parking, and then also the architect to address some of the current concerns that were raised about lighting and bulk and density and whatnot.
Sure.
All right, thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Cliff Toberman? Yeah, there we go. Yeah, Cliff Toberman, civil engineer, and did the traffic study, as well as many of our staff as well. So, quick summary, we counted Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I was there counting Wednesday, counting Easter Sunday, as well as Palm Sunday. To the parking element of it first, there was close to 20% available parking on Palm Sunday. And, you watch the arrivals, the departures, etc. using the two entrances, which is favorable to have those two existing entrances. There's the north entrance closest to the church. Then you have the south entrance that's a larger 3-lane entrance that allows inbound, outbound, left turns, as well as the rights coming in and out, which is highly favorable to any facility located on the south half of the site. Okay. Also, the Easter Sunday was full, but at the same time, there was much more of a delay in people leaving the ceremony. So I did not see any different queuing or effect on traffic on Easter Sunday than I did on Palm Sunday. Let me point out about the new facility. The new facility that I talked quite a bit with the church, will have opportunity to offer lunch and so forth after Easter. So an important aspect of that is as it'll delay your departures from the facility as you're eating after the ceremony. I mean, for any ceremony they're having. So what I found is that the traffic on a Sunday, now this is on a Sunday, that our counts on Sunday, I was out there, Potter Road on Palm Sunday I rated it an A. In other words, large traffic gaps. Now this is very important to compare Potter Road between Gulf and Church on the north side of Church. That light at Church and the synchronized lights coming northbound on Potter, you allow 2-minute green light cycle coming northbound, okay? But that does go into red cycle for about 30 seconds, 15, 30 seconds, depending on the cross traffic. On a Sunday, not too much on the Sunday. Nonetheless, there's large gaps northbound. Where does the church come? 2/3 of the church members are basically coming and going from the north. So therefore, they're largely coming in with right turns, inbound and outbound, 2/3 roughly going out lefts. Okay, north on Potter. So those gaps, very large gaps at the Church Street intersection, create large gaps for anyone looking to take a left going northbound. That was observed and counted. The left turn lane, the traffic was light enough on Palm Sunday that most people didn't even need the left turn. There's a couple to take a left out, heading northbound. Light use of the center lane consistently Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Now I say that there's still residents trying to use that to get into the local side streets. I mean, they're queuing at the intersections, the residential intersections. And we observe delays of anywhere, if you're making a simple left going on Potter Road, and all you have to do is cross one lane of traffic, typically it could be anywhere from 5 to 30, no more than a minute, no more than waiting. More like 10, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. That's what our counts. We counted them. We counted seconds. I was sitting there as well as our staff. So therefore, on a Wednesday, let's move to Wednesday. Sunday is a great day, for all kind of things, okay, on Potter Road. It had 30% less traffic than the peak on Wednesday. Wednesday was the peak, okay? And Wednesday afternoon, late afternoon, and pretty consistent heavy traffic, moving at all times. Traffic flowed. It wasn't as if there was traffic sitting there. The time we actually went out when the Des Plaines River was flooded, okay? Therefore, Gulf Road's closed. Well, what's everybody doing? They're using Potter as a shortcut. That's when we couldn't even count because, of the special circumstances, Potter Road was being overused at overcapacity, okay? Given the circumstances of Gulf Road, a major road that we counted at the intersection of Gulf and Potter, okay? So we counted both Gulf and Potter on that Wednesday, as well as Church and Potter. Okay, we recognized and we saw delays at the facility to the south with the parking problems described. We didn't go in the neighborhoods, that wasn't our job. Our job was to watch that intersection. And duly noted to the southbound, as you head south, sure enough, you'd have some backup with the facility having prayer services and so forth, okay, at that time. Okay. Other comments in regard to the Wednesday, the use of a recreational facility. Recreational facilities, the average peak is about 50 trips, 25 in, 25 out, round number, okay? So the most important is left turns. Right turns, in, out, never worry. Traffic's flowing fine. Able to make those turns, rights, ins, and right outs, okay? That's was never seen to be a problem in any of our accounts. However, left turns, you would be looking at probably use on Wednesday of using the left turn lane to take it out. However, what does this mean, everyone? If you have 25 in, 25 out, split them up into rights and lefts. Round number 25, right turns 25. Bottom line, you're down to 12 in a peak hour, 12 trips in a peak hour. It's one every 5 minutes. One every 5 minutes trying to make a left.
Sure.
That's it. So I'm giving you a little synopsis that you know, from a traffic standpoint, that the use is key, is outside those peak hours, but that's a mild, that's a much lesser use, the rec use. It is not, I've done badminton courts, it's very similar. I've done the same thing, done traffic study for that. That's it.
Thank you.
So I'm giving you a broader perspective as to what we saw at our counts. And I appreciate the help. I appreciate getting all kind of comments from what people have seen. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any additional comments from the audience? One more? All right. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Robert Kirk. I'm the architect on the project. I'd like to address a couple of the issues that were brought up. One is the use of the property. The 2019 Des Plaines Comprehensive Plan calls for a institutional use for this particular piece of property. So we're in compliance with the comprehensive plan. The second is the windows on the second floor and the first floor. On the west side, there will not be any windows on the west side, which is adjacent to the residences. The third thing is the amount of foot candles that that the building is going to generate at the property line. There will be 0.0, which is also the city ordinance. The fourth thing is the sound. We are going to have an SDC rating of 60 for the masonry walls, which is super high, and that's the construction of the exterior wall on the west side. Then the fifth thing that I want to talk about is the fencing. We are going to have a non-accessible fence on the west side and on the south side and on the north side, so there will be no pedestrian access to the property. And the last thing I want to talk about is the MWRD, which is a 100-year flood. We will meet all the standards necessary for the MWRD, and that's also kind of dictated by the engineering department of Des Plaines. So we'll meet all those requirements. So the fencing, the use, the windows, the SDC rating, and the foot candles at 0 at the property line is really what we want to follow. And do you have any further questions for me?
Yeah, Mr. Kirk. It was Kirk, right? Correct? Thank you. I'm glad you addressed those. Those were a couple of my questions, actually. Are you able to accomplish the foot candles with like a lower elevation and shading on the lights on the south and west elevations or viewpoints then?
Correct. I also want to state that we're 35 feet from the property line. The required is 25 feet, so we're an extra 10 feet further back from the property. We also have a height that it does not meet the height standard heights. We are less than the standard height requirements. I'm sorry, did you have anything else?
No, that was great. And then I was glad to hear that there's no windows for light to shine through on the west side then. Okay. Any questions for the architect while he's up here? No?
Not for him.
Okay, not for him. I think that's good.
Okay,
Thank you, sir. Any additional comments from the audience?
Didn't he already speak?
He already came up.
You'd have to make a quick comment, please. Yep.
I think the traffic study, he did a very detailed analysis. My only comment is, it is what they have now and does not anticipate what will be and the impact.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to bring that up. The second thing I wanted to talk about
No,
was the
we're limited
lighting.
to comment.
Just one
No,
more thing.
You've
the
had,
lighting.
you know what, out of respect to everybody here, you had more than
All
enough
right.
time to talk. Thank you. Appreciate it. Any other additional comments from the audience? I appreciate the respectfulness of both sides making their arguments and all the time you guys put into it. It was great. Alderman comments, Alderman Moreland.
I want to thank everybody for coming. I understand the passion, how quickly everybody has their thoughts on this. I've heard both, for and against, appreciate both sides doing that. I want to do something now. St. Zachary's, Unity, Islamic Community Center, Trinity Lutheran, St. Mary's, United Methodist, Des Plaines Evangelical, Grace Evangelical Lutheran, the Congregation Beth Shalom, St. Stephen's, the Bridge, First Congregational. Those are all institutions in our city that are in residential neighborhoods. They are surrounded by houses. Most of them have gymnasiums. Many of them have schools. This is not something that is new to the city of Des Plaines or the residential. So I understand where we're coming, but I got a couple questions, and because a lot of stuff was stated they're to Chief Anderson, our police chief. Since they were established, Chief, how many complaints has your department received regarding excessive noise, and were there any times and events that they were reported?
In the last 5 years, we haven't received no complaints.
Have you had any calls about traffic concerns, specifically the Marthuma area?
For that address, we've received no traffic complaints.
See, that's what I go by. I go by what we have on record. And I understand the traffic. I drive through there a lot. I understand Potter, but I think the biggest issue is south. And I was glad to hear that most of the people come from the north. So I'd like to make an amendment which will cover some of the stuff that I think we've done. So before we approve it, I'd like to add a couple things. I'd like to see that refuge, garbage pickup is only after 9 a.m. for the noise issues. If they have more than 100 attendees at any time, they will have parking management personnel to guide those people in and out and provide training for those people. Neither the church building nor the proposed multi-purpose building may be leased to third parties for any uses unaffiliated with the principal residential zoned assembly use. Events held on the property on Thursdays, which that was the traffic study showed the hardest time, must start before 4 or after 6:30. And I think that could be worked out before final approval. I'd also like to see, and I'm going to read this directly, I'd like to see condition C in section 8, page 112 of the packet to read as follows. The existing church building and proposed multi-purpose building will not be occupied simultaneously at any time other than Sundays from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. when the multi-purpose building may be used for teen and youth worship and auxiliary uses including kitchen operations concurrently with the use of the church building. Use of the church building and multi-purpose building will be coordinated to ensure that at no time
may the uses exceed their approved parking capacity. So I would ask city staff to work with the applicant, but then I would move forward to approve ordinance Z 1226
As amended.
as amended.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second, okay, and to the petitioners, are you amenable to these conditions?
If I could. Just with regard to the Sunday use, the time limitation from 10 to 11:30, and we'd like to expand that, and the initial reaction was to at least 1 PM, and then I'm not sure if we need to.
Well, we're saying other than Sundays, so you want to extend the.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought it was on,
Other than Sundays.
So, I think that you guys are both talking past each other, so the language as proposed says that the church and the multi-use building will not be occupied simultaneously at any time except for Sundays from 10 to 11:30. So they're suggesting 10 to 1 or 1:30?
so is 1 acceptable? Yeah. So until 1:30 on Sunday, and then does the 10 a.m., is that okay that we?
Yeah, 10 a.m. is fine, on any of the days, which, these are all, can I?
Yeah.
Okay. These are all small group meetings, any other days?
We're saying that you can use those simultaneously during that time to handle your youth services.
Absolutely. There won't be simultaneous use except for Sundays.
Correct.
So again, the time frame is 10 to
Yeah, we are okay with the, whatever you stated.
10 to
Alderman.
11:30?
10 to
10 to
1:30.
1:30?
Yeah.
I'll accept the 1:30.
You're okay with 1:30? Okay. So you're okay with that?
Mr. Chairman, can we ask the applicant to explain what services would be occurring simultaneously during the expanded timeframe, just so that it's clear for the record?
Of course, Director. Of course, did you hear the director's question, or do you need that repeated?
Yeah, if you would, the question again, please.
Could you confirm for the record which services would potentially be happening simultaneously between 10 and 1:30?
The youth-focused worship services would be on Sundays at the same time as the normal liturgical worship. That would be concurrent. And Sunday school, that would be concurrent.
And
on
then
Sundays.
kitchen facilities or something instead, right? Something like that? Did I read that somewhere? Like, do you do food prep or something?
Yes.
Yeah, we're
food
allowing
prep.
church uses of the kitchen during church services because you
Correct.
talked about serving lunch after.
Correct. Yeah, it'll be coffee. We only have combined meals on Easter Sunday and on Christmas.
Fine.
Does that answer your question, Jeff?
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Alderman Merlin, are we good? Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
Thank you.
Okay.
Alderman Sherwitz.
Yeah, thank you. I just had a couple questions on that. First, the capacity at any time is still 500. That is what has been stated before. I want to make sure that's perfectly clear to both sides. That's all they can have at one time, anytime, is 500 people. Second question was really, what about enforcement? What does the city have if there becomes, I think we talked about flooding already, that's going to be handled by MWRD, but some of the traffic noise and parking, if there is an issue with the neighbors, what's the procedure for them to let the city know, and what enforcement does the city have if there's an issue that comes up? I don't know who gets to answer that question. Jeff, go ahead.
So all the provisions of the city code remain in effect across the community. Specifically, in addition to those requirements, this conditional use ordinance allows the city council to apply additional conditions above and beyond those of the city code to mitigate potential impacts on adjacent property. So I heard 4 additional conditions to the 3 that were already listed in the code. Actually, I think one of the 3 was amended as well. So,
Right.
4 new and 1 amended. We have provisions of the code for noise. We have quiet hours during the city, so there's certain provisions during quiet hours that are different outside of quiet hours. We have lighting requirements in the city that would all remain applicable to the property. If there were suspected violations, those should be reported to the city. There are a number of ways of doing that. We have a web portal, DP311, for reporting minor or recurring property maintenance violations. If something needs to be addressed immediately due to safety concerns, things of that nature, we recommend that residents call 911. Responses are typically done during business hours between 8:30 and 5 for property maintenance complaints. The city community development department can schedule special inspections outside of those hours, and we frequently do so, especially for lighting complaints when those need to be done when the sun is down. So all of those normal procedures remain in effect. If there's a pattern of violations or violations specifically of the conditional use ordinance requirements, the city council has the authority to call a hearing with the proposal to amend or revoke a conditional use that's issued by the city council. So in the event that something needed to be addressed, that could be done at the direction of the city council.
Okay, thank you. I mean, I thought that was important to make sure we said that, so that any concerns that the neighborhood has, and this is the same throughout the entire city, whether it's not specific to this project, please call 911. We need to know where the problem is. That's what aldermen are here to do. That's what the city staff is here to do. But unless we know that there is a problem, we can't fix the problem. So that I want to make sure the community knows that, again, across the whole entire city. We're all used to that. Our phones ring all the time, and that's part of the job. So make sure you report it, because then it can be fixed. And then I want to make sure the petitioner knows that this whole process can be revoked if they're not doing exactly what they say. And that'll be up to us, so on both sides. So thank you, Chairman. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Alderman.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yes, Alderman, go ahead.
Good evening.
Shelby.
Since this is in my ward, I do want to just say a brief statement. After hearing everyone, I do appreciate you coming out. I do not support the application because I do not believe it meets the planned unit development standards. Based on resident and neighboring property input, I believe the parking and traffic congestion and intensity of the site operations would be adverse to the adjacent properties in the neighborhood. I also don't believe it meets the conditional use standards, specifically in regard to the proposed multi-purpose building, which is not harmonious and appropriate in appearance with the existing character of the neighborhood. Based on this, at the appropriate time, I will be voting a no. If my fellow aldermen are considering approval of this project, I would consider additional conditions, as Mr. Marlin has mentioned, be part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Klevick. Alderman Oskerka.
Director Rogers, I had a quick question related to a comment somebody made about notification. What was the date of the PZB meeting?
The PZB meeting was May 12th.
When did we put our sign out in front of the property?
2 signs were posted, and those would have been posted in late April, at least 15 days prior to the hearing.
So anybody in that 2-week span could have driven by, seen it, and gone and asked questions about it?
Correct. The signs include contact information for the city as well as a brief summary of the request.
And I don't remember, but I know at one point when we were talking about the signs and making the signs bigger and notifying people in the area, did this meet the qualification for neighbors to be notified of something going on?
Yes, for a residentially zoned property, the standard is direct notification in the form of a mailing via USPS first class mail at least 15 days prior to the public hearing, so late April, within 300 feet of the subject property, including unincorporated properties across the street.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. No additional comments. I believe there is a motion, Mayor.
All right, so Motion from Alderman Merlin, seconded by Alderman Moylan, for passage of ordinance Z-12-26 as amended. Let's have a roll call.
Alderman Merlin.
We're voting on the amendment, to be clear. Yeah, sorry, I wasn't clear on that.
Just
We're
to be
voting-
clear-
We're voting on Mr.
Correct.
Merlin's amendment. Roll call, please.
Alderman Merlin.
Aye.
Walston.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Chairwitz.
Aye.
Hlebeck.
Aye.
Moylan.
Aye.
Askirka.
Aye.
Sayed.
All right, the amendment is adopted. So with that, is there a motion to pass the,
My first,
oh, okay.
my first
All right,
motion.
we'll have a roll call on the passage of the ordinance as amended.
Alderman Walston.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Chairwitz.
Aye.
Hlebeck.
No.
Moylan.
Aye.
Askirka.
Aye.
Sayed.
Aye.
Merlin.
Aye.
Motion carries. Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'll start back at the top. Item A, consideration of a resolution approving a purchase and sale agreement for the purchase of 1430, 1440 Minor Street. Back to you, Director Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This item is a request from staff for consideration of a resolution approving the purchase and sale of property located at 1430 and 1440 Minor Street, Resolution R 14626. The subject property is a mixed-use commercial residential building located between City Hall and the former Masonic Temple, which is located at the northwest corner of Lee Street and Minor Street. Subject property is comprised of approximately 12,600 square feet, which is a little more than a quarter of an acre, and is located in the city's C5 Central Business District, which is the zoning district applied throughout the downtown. This property, again, is the mixed-use building between City Hall and the former Leela Performing Arts Building and Masonic Temple. Both of those properties are already owned by the city. It is also adjacent to the city's municipal parking garage to the north. The property is improved with 3 commercial tenant spaces on the ground floor, occupied by 3 existing businesses that have leases extending into the next few years, as well as 4 residential apartment units on the upper floor. The terms of the purchase and sale agreement include a purchase price of $1.6 million, $25,000 of which would serve as earnest money applicable to the purchase price. The agreement would provide 60 days for due diligence and inspections by the city. The closing would be required to occur within 30 days after the end of the due diligence period. And we also have a requirement regarding the expiration of the residential leases on the property while the commercial leases would continue. Each of those commercial leases has slightly different terms, but each continue for the next several years. Staff can attempt to answer any questions regarding the contents of the PSA for this property. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. I'll open up to the floor for discussion of the item. Mayor.
Thank you so much. You know, the city has been working hard to try and find strategic targets for acquisition and redevelopment to get some of these buildings put to their best use. And this was not one that we had sought out, but I know that we were approached when the building went on the market. That being said, given the fact that we already own the Leela Performing Arts building next door, it was a natural fit, and it allows us to control that parcel moving forward, so we can sort of make sure that we're doing what we need to do to keep downtown going in the right direction. So I'm grateful for the city manager and for Jeff for bringing this to our attention. And I want to say, you know, again, there's no immediate plan to do anything. We have some great tenants there that we absolutely want to continue to have here in Des Plaines. So, you know, we certainly value their presence in our community, and we're going to do what we can to keep them around. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with you. This allows the city to control a key parcel, you know, and continue to see what we're driving for, that the success of downtown that we hear frequently from all the residents. So I think this is a key parcel that, you know, we need to be able to control in order to continue to see success downtown. With that being said, any additional comments from council? Alderman Sherwitz.
I'll stick my neck out by saying, mostly the residents, we really don't want to be landlords and continue on this process, but I think this would be a great one to flip to a developer that would then take over that process for us, making sure that we continue on with the commercial leases till they run out, you know, working with the people that are there. So I think that's our real intent, is to basically flip this, and then, like you said, Mayor said too, to develop this area into a beautiful restaurants on the bottom with something else, whatever the developers want. So, you know, we were happy to have a consistent city management form of government, I said earlier, and that would attract development downtown. Well, here you go. We got one for you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Any additional comments? If Alderman Merlin?
Yeah, we've got residents living above the building, and I think it's always been the city's policy. While we'll work with businesses, there's a reason why we're asking the residents to leave, but they're also, I believe, getting 2 months free rent. So I think it's important to note that that's part of the plan, that they're going to get 2 months free rent to find another place to live. So I think that's important that we care about the residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Any additional comments? If not, I stand to approve Resolution R-146-26.
Motion from Chairman Moylan, seconded by Alderman Skirka for passage of Resolution R-146-26. Roll call, please.
Alderman Smith.
Aye.
Chairwitz.
Aye.
Klebeck.
Aye.
Moylan.
Aye.
Skirka.
Aye.
Sayed. Merlin.
Aye.
Walston.
Aye.
Motion carries. Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mayor. That brings us to item B, consideration of an ordinance approving major variations from the zoning ordinance for a residential driveway in quantity and width at 33 North 6th Avenue. Back to you, Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This would be ordinance Z1026 for a major variation for 2 items, quantity and width of driveway at 33 North 6th Avenue. The subject property is improved with a principal single-family detached residence and a detached accessory garage abutting an alley. The subject property is in the R1 single-family residential zoning district. The property owners own an RV that is parked diagonally between the 2 structures. There is a 2.5-car driveway serving the detached garage, and they're asking for approval of a second driveway of significant length to accommodate the RV. This is a single RV that does comply with the city's maximum size allowances for RVs, but due to the nature and location of the parking and storage of the vehicle, it does not comply with the zoning requirements and would require major variations to be approved. This was noticed for a public hearing before the Planning and Zoning Board that took place on April 28th. The applicant requested consideration at this meeting rather than the prior City Council meeting because they would not be available to attend. This is an aerial photograph of the subject property showing the location of 2 vehicles being parked outside of the detached garage on private property between the 2 structures. Although the RV is compliant in size and quantity, it is parked in a location that's not currently permissible. The applicant's proposal would be an installation of a new 39-foot long by 8-foot wide driveway and a 13-foot by 2-foot extension of a paved area along the existing driveway to serve as a connection between the man door access into the detached garage and the alley. In review of the item of the request by the Planning and Zoning Board, they felt that alternatives are available. 3 staff recommended conditions of approval are included in the draft ordinance that was reviewed by the Planning and Zoning Board. At the conclusion of the public hearing, the Planning and Zoning Board voted by a 3-3 vote to recommend the City Council approve both the major variation to allow the second driveway and the major variation to allow a 34-foot wide driveway with the 3 staff conditions as included. As a tie vote, that type of vote comprises a failed motion to approve and ultimately then a recommendation for denial to the City Council. The draft ordinance is written in the affirmative as a approval of the ordinance. So a motion to approve as presented would be to allow the 2 variations to be approved, whereas a motion to deny would be denial of the 2 variations. I can attempt to answer any questions about the application of the city code to this situation. The applicants are in the audience this evening to answer questions about the contents of their petition.
Thank you, Director. If the applicants are here and they'd like to address the council, please feel free to do so. Okay, thank you. And at this time, we'll open up for discussion from the council. Any comments? Alderman Smith.
I do not support the major variation request because I don't believe that it meets the zoning variation standards, particularly because of the alleged hardship it is self-imposed. At the proper time, I will make the motion to that effect.
Thank you, Alderman. Any additional comments? Seeing none, is that a motion to deny, Alderman?
Go ahead.
Regarding item 3.B, ordinance Z-10-26, I move to deny the request, major variation from the zoning ordinance for a residential driveway at 33 North 6th Avenue.
So there's a motion to deny ordinance Z-10-26 from Alderman Smith, seconded by Alderman Merlin. Let's have a roll call.
Alderman Sherwitz.
Aye.
Klevik.
Aye.
Moylan.
Aye.
Skirka.
Aye.
Sayed.
Aye.
Merlin.
Aye.
Walston.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mayor. Item C, consideration of an ordinance approving a conditional use for a massage establishment in a C3 district at 1645 South Des Plaines River Road, Suite 19. Back to you, Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a request for consideration of an ordinance approving a conditional use. The proposed use would be a massage establishment at 1645 South Des Plaines River Road in the C3 district. This is ordinance Z-11-26 and would be first consideration. The subject property is a multi-tenant commercial office building. The City Council recently approved a second unrelated massage establishment on the property. This request is specifically for occupation and operation of a massage establishment in Suite 13, which is one of the units on the north side of the building. Subject property, again, is in the C3 district. We have photographs of the public notice sign as well as the existing improvements for the property. The scope of the proposal would include operation by 2 licensed massage therapists. The services that would be include multiple types of massage, therapeutic body work, and sound therapy. There were 3 staff recommended conditions of approval that were included in the PZB's motion. At the conclusion of the public hearing, the Planning and Zoning Board recommended City Council approval by a unanimous 4-0 vote of the conditional use request with those 3 sample conditions. The applicant is in the audience to answer any questions about the scope of their proposal, and I can attempt to answer any questions about the city's requirements for massage establishments at this location. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. This time I'll open up to the council for a discussion. I've got no issues with it. I've heard nothing from any residents for complaints. I think it's in a good area over there, so I'll be for the ordinance when the time comes. Any additional comments? Any comments from the audience? I'll make a motion to approve ordinance Z-11-26.
Motion from Chairman Moylan, seconded by Alderman Sayed for passage of ordinance Z-11-26. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Yeah, it's first reading. So ordinance Z-11-26 passes on first reading. And as long as I'm talking about this, the first item that we discussed this evening, ordinance Z-12-26, that was also on first reading. So all of those changes from the new conditions that we added will be back next meeting incorporated for second reading. All right, so I think we're done with community development unless anyone wants to advance this one. Okay. Moving along to legal and licensing, we have Chairman Sherwitz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for saving the best for last. And here we go. So we have two two things on our agenda. The first one is consideration of a resolution urging the Illinois General Assembly and Governor Pritzker to preserve and protect multiple zoning authorities, Resolution R-147-26. And comments from the aldermen. I'll be happy to start with Alderman Morley.
Thank you, Chairman. You know, I was pretty outspoken at the last council meeting about having this resolution in front of us today. And just to recap, you know, what this conversation is about is, you know, the proposal of the BUILD Act by the governor. And, you know, this bill tries to address the issue of affordable housing, which I think is an issue and warrants a grander discussion. But the problem for me, you know, with this legislation is, you know, simply put, that changing single-family lots in our city to multifamily and bypassing local zoning and ordinances is just outrageous to me. I think our community knows what's best in our community, is intimate with our community, and our zoning should reflect, you know, the makeup of our community. It's not fair to ask, you know, someone that invested in their community in a residential area to have to put up with a possible 8-flat just moving in next door. It's just completely unreasonable. You know, a lot of people spend their money, their hard-earned money and hard-earned dollars to try to afford the American dream, and if they're fortunate enough to afford a home, I think that this could, you know, have dire consequences to, you know, the value of that residential home if you have to live next to an 8-flat, you know. And we could go on and on discussion about, you know, how this bypasses the ordinances or by local ordinances and doesn't have to, you know, do everything that a normal development like that would, bypassing, you know, flood and what it does to the sewers and the waste and the flooding in backyards. I mean, none of that is addressed in this bill, and it's just poor legislation at the end of the day, and really an overreach by the state to take away local zoning by right. So that's kind of where I stand, and I think it's important to bring this up so just residents know actually that this bill was proposed, because a lot don't whenever I talk to anybody, and how important it is. Usually we don't, you know, get too much involved in state policy. I don't like to do that, but I think that this warrants these comments today. So thank you, Chairman.
Okay. Thank you, Alderman. Go ahead, Alderman Soika.
I think this is actually great to bring up tonight based upon the conversation we had earlier about the assembly use. And I think that's the best part of local government, is people being able to come in the group of, what, about 100 people we had here tonight to discuss a topic for neighbors to discuss and people to have both sides heard. So I think taking that away does a great disservice, and this proved our point tonight on why it's important to maintain local government control on some topics. Thank you.
Going down the line, any other aldermen as we come around? Alderman, yep.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think homelessness and housing shortage is key. My biggest problem with this bill, it's painting a broad brush from Wisconsin to Iowa to, there is such a diverse communities in that area, and just saying, oh, well, we're going to tell everybody what to do out of Springfield I agree with Alderman Moylan that taking away local control just is not the best thing. Thank you.
Any other alderman comments? Mr. Mayor?
Thanks very much. I appreciate all your comments on this. I take a somewhat different view, but I certainly understand where you all come from. The housing shortage facing our region, our state, and our nation is real, and it's pretty well documented. Illinois is not the only state trying to solve these housing issues. In fact, more than 20 states, red states and blue states, big states and little states, have already acted to implement reforms very similar to those that are in BUILD, whether it's ADUs by right or middle housing by right or parking requirements being reduced. You know, they've already acted on these again in over 20 states. And just maybe 12 days ago, the United States House of Representatives passed their own federal housing reform bill, 396 to 13. And we're in a very sort of polarized time right now. So seeing that sort of bipartisanship, recognizing the issue and the crisis from a lack of housing supply is something that I think is notable. I do support the overall effort of BUILD. I don't think it's a perfect bill. I've engaged directly with legislators working to improve it in addition to the governor's office. to suggest specific improvements and propose changes to some of the things that you all are talking about. I think that any legislation can be made better, and this is certainly no exception, but I do believe that saying no without providing ways to get to yes is not the answer. So that's where I stand, but thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Any other comments from our aldermen? Any comments from our one-person public today? All right, thank you. Is there a motion? I'll be happy to, Alderman Moreland, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd be happy to make that motion to pass resolution R-147-26. Thank you, Chairman.
Second by
Motion
Alderman
from
Smith.
Chairman Moylan, second by Alderman
I'm
Smith.
sorry.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman. Let's have a roll call, please.
Alderman Levick.
Aye.
Moylan.
Aye.
Skirka.
Aye.
Sayed.
Aye.
Merlin.
Aye.
Walston.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Chairwitz.
Aye.
Motion carries. Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Our last thing on the agenda is ordinance M 12-26, which is domestic animal care. And Jeff, I bet you got a nice little slideshow ready for us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This item would comprise a text amendment to Title IV of the City Code, which regulates businesses, business registrations, and other similar business operations throughout the community. This text amendment would establish new requirements for domestic animal care and service establishments, certain licensing and inspection requirements, but specifically a requirement for a double barrier control, which I'll describe in a moment. Ordinance M 1226 in its draft format was distributed to the City Council, and this comprises first reading by the City Council of the amendment. The staff developed a draft ordinance proposing these new regulations, specifically included a definition for certain specific commercial land uses that would be governed by the new requirements, referencing an annual license fee, establishing a requirement for double barrier access control, which is specifically intended to prevent the elopement of loose animals from building interiors to building exteriors. It would require compliance inspections, and it would impose a penalty for violations of the city's licensing requirements, including the double barrier access control requirement. The purpose of that amendment would be to ensure that new domestic animal care and service establishments operating throughout the city will be fully compliant with all local regulations, including the new requirement. Although the concept of a double barrier access control in domestic animal care and service establishments is recognized as an industry best practice throughout the pet care and service industry, control and practices appear to be implemented voluntarily by business operators or through facility design by business operators and their design teams. We did research and utilize the research tools available to staff, and we're not able to find any other municipalities that specifically regulate this in the city code. However, we were able to develop a sample ordinance for consideration. That amendment, as proposed, would establish those egress and accessibility requirements in compliance with all of the other requirements of the state and City of Des Plaines in our attempt to address this specific issue. So again, the specific components, there are 5 new sections that would be added to the code. One would establish definitions related to this subject. One would establish licensing requirements and a fee. The next would provide the specific conditions for the double barrier access control. The next would be authorization for inspections by the city, and lastly, establishment of fines for violations of those requirements. Domestic animal care and service establishments would be defined as a use or structure intended or used primarily for the boarding, grooming, testing, training, treatment, or medical care of domestic animals. Domestic animal care, that's typo there, and service establishments include without limitation the following classes of businesses: domestic animal grooming facilities, domestic animal daycare, domestic animal training clubs, and veterinary clinics. Double barrier access control was specifically described in the manner included in the ordinance. There's a design requirement that it comply with all of the width and design requirements for egress from a building. Egress from principal entrances from the interior to the exterior are a very important part of building and fire code compliance review. There'd be a minimum height of the barrier of no less than 4 feet above the finished floor. There'd be a provision requiring that the design and specific nature of the system installed would meet all of the accessibility requirements of the Illinois Accessibility Code, and that this would be applicable only to new domestic animal care and service facilities going forward after the date of adoption of this ordinance, prior to the issuance by the city of a certificate of occupancy for any such use. The double barrier access control specifically, each domestic animal care and service establishment must maintain access control to prevent uncontrolled egress of animals from the interior to the exterior of the premises. Double barrier access control may be achieved via an airlock entry, sally port, secondary gate, or other compliant double barrier system. Such control system must be self-closing and self-latching, securely fixed and comprised of adequate construction, maintained in good repair, and secured in order to protect animals from injury or escape. The City Council has the exclusive authority to adopt amendments to the Title IV requirements of the City Code, and staff recommends the City Council consider approval of this ordinance, which would establish these requirements. I can attempt to answer any questions about this text amendment as well as the applicable overlapping code requirements related to this request. Thank you.
Mike.
All right, thank you. Alderman, okay, go ahead, Mark.
So the double barrier, that doesn't affect current veterinarian outfits and grooming. It's just going forward, that would be a requirement?
Yeah, so most known land uses that meet this definition already comply with this requirement. This would establish an opportunity for us to ensure that all future such uses will comply with this requirement without requiring physical alterations to existing long-standing businesses, which would be considered legal non-conforming to this requirement going forward.
Thank you.
Any other Alderman comments? Alderman Circa?
Do we have an issue with animals running out into the street or outside of facilities as it is already?
So the city code currently has provisions in a different section of the code in regard to animals not on leash that could be used to write a citation for an incident that would occur, but certainly doesn't prevent the incident from happening in the first place. So if someone were to bring an animal into a commercial establishment, the animal, either they lost control of the lead or the animal got off leash and escaped from the premises. At this time, all we can do is write a ticket. In this version of the text amendment, it would provide the city an opportunity to try to prevent that from happening in the first place in these specific subcategory of businesses. Because of the nature of the requirement that we don't yet have requirements, I don't know that if this happens that it would be frequently reported to the city, but I'm not personally aware of any reports that my department has received.
I mean, I like the idea of regulation and inspection. I'm just not a fan of adding a burden to a new business of a double door if we don't have a history of something like that happening or have reportable data. Honestly, it seems like an undue request of the possibility of a new business moving in. Thank you.
Any other Alderman comments? Alderman Merlin, you, no comments?
Well, I'll respond to Alderman Circa. The concern is we have some establishments with doors opening directly onto the streets. All of our existing facilities already have a double barrier. Any groomer, the vets, they all have a way to keep an animal off lead from getting directly onto the street. The concern is that it's not codified, therefore it might not be followed. So this is more of a review of all of the existing to put it in place. It's not uncommon. The new park district, dog park, has the exact same arrangement. You go through one gate, and then you go through two different gates to get into the actual activity area. That's what we're talking about.
Any other comments? My one comment I would ask is at a veterinarian's office, I mean, having owned a dog for quite some time, most of the daycares, I think you're right, meaning when the dog is taken off leash and put into a play area with other dogs, this would be a secondary barrier. Most of them have that. I think that's pretty common. At a vet's office, though, would you consider the vet inspection room being that second barrier, or are they going to have to put a second barrier in their office area? Typically, the office is on leash anyways. I don't know if that's complicating this whole mess, but as you say, you know, I don't want to put an undue burden on existing businesses. Most vets, when you go in there, you keep, even the cats are in little containers, the dogs are on leashes, but it does say veterinarians would need a secondary, so how does that going to work?
So any new veterinary clinic that would open in the community after adoption of this draft ordinance would be required to establish some form of double barrier access control. By far and away the easiest, sorry, not the easiest, but the most common solution to this is the airlock example. So there would be an exterior exit door. Airlocks are typically installed to control HVAC and energy costs so that warm air doesn't escape in the winter and cold air doesn't escape in the summer. It escapes only into the area between the two exterior doors. So that type of design would comply with this requirement. In the absence of that type of design, some of our buildings weren't designed with such improvements or were just outdated when those improvements became commonplace. They would have to implement one of the other alternatives.
Okay. Just wanted to make that clear. I don't know that I'm personally comfortable with the vets having to do that, again, because that seems to be, most vets you'll be on leash. Although I do see the training facilities, because that's the whole idea of a training facility, is to train your dog off leash. Definitely the daycares, because their dogs are out running around in the back. You don't want those coming through, getting out. So, any other comments? Go ahead, Alderman Moreland.
I agree with you, Alderman Sherwitz, or Chairman. I think that maybe, would it be able to amend it and just remove veterinarian office? I don't know. I think that you made a good point.
I don't see a problem with that, but I'll ask the other alderman if that's the motion that's going to be put out there, or if we should just send it back to staff if it's worth all that.
Well, I'd have no problem removing the vet requirement. I agree with you. Bring your dog into the vet, you then go into an exam room. It's a different situation. You're not training your dog when you go to the vet.
Yeah. Staff see any issue with that simple change?
No, so the definition as presented on the screen would be amended to strike "and veterinary clinics," and the word "and" would be added before domestic animal training clubs.
Yeah, even grooming areas, I mean, that wouldn't be a bad idea, you know, because that dog in the back being groomed, typically they get tied up to a little post anyways, but this way they have a double barrier. And daycare is definitely animal training, which I think takes care of all the issues. We would just eliminate the last two words. Okay, I move to approve ordinance MZ-12-26 with removing veterinarian clinics.
Okay, motion from Chairman Chairwood, second by Alderman Sayed to pass ordinance M-12-26 on first reading as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
I'd like to move it to second reading.
Oh, you'd like to? Well, are you good to move to second reading, Jeff, or do you need time to? No? Okay, so there's a motion from Alderman Merlin to advance to second reading and approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Alderman Walston. Let's have a roll call on passage of ordinance M-12-26 on second reading.
Alderman Moylan.
Aye.
Skirka.
No.
Sayed.
No.
Merlin.
Aye.
Walston.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Sherwitz.
No.
Klebeck.
No.
Is that 4-4? Yes. Give me one moment here.
Because there's already a 10-day wait afterwards. Yeah, but then there's a 10-day after that.
Because this is just.
Right.
This is just
Okay.
for second reading.
I'm gonna vote no on advancing it to second reading, and it'll come back next time.
It'll come back in 2 weeks.
Yeah, my concern on that is there's also an additional 10 days after that till it takes effect.
Oh.
Are they beating down the doors to open new
Yes.
clinics?
Yes.
There is?
Yes.
Nothing.
Those double doors.
I'm okay with this.
Sure. Okay, very good. Are there any other Alderman comments for the good of the order? Hearing none, may I have a motion to adjourn? Alderman Sayed, seconded by Alderman Skirka. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. The City Council meeting of June 1st, 2026 is adjourned at 9:51 p.m.